I'm Jessica Monroe, 36 years old, freelance accountant. 3 weeks ago, my younger sister Emily accidentally added me to a family group chat called Family Core. 1,247 messages, 6 years of conversations, and a nickname I never knew I had, the failure one. But the messages weren't even the worst part. Buried in that chat was proof that my family had been using my name, my credit, my identity, without my knowledge or consent. $47,000 in loans I never signed for. 3 scholarship applications I never authorized. 2 tax benefit claims I never agreed to. All in my name, all without a single signature from me. My own mother wrote, and I'm quoting her exactly, "Jessica won't notice. She doesn't even check her credit score. I saved everything, every message, every document, every lie." Then I sent one line into that chat and watched them panic. So the useless one is the one carrying it all. Interesting math. What happened at my grandmother's 75th birthday party 3 weeks later? Let's just say the perfect family image didn't survive the night. But to understand that night, you need to understand how I got there. If any of this sounds familiar, being the invisible one, the one they talk about but never talk to, stick around. And if you want to hear how this ends, hit subscribe now so you don't miss a thing. Let me take you back to 3 weeks before the party. To the night, everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening around 7. I was at my kitchen table finishing up quarterly reports for a client. My apartment was small, quiet, mine. A 1-bedroom in a modest Connecticut complex. Nothing fancy, but I'd earned every square foot of it myself. The kind of place my family described as cozy, which was their code for disappointing. My phone rang. The caller ID made me pause. Grandma Margaret, she usually called on Sundays. We had a rhythm, her and I. Sunday morning check-ins, sometimes lasting an hour, sometimes just 10 minutes of comfortable silence while she worked in her garden and I drank my coffee. A Tuesday call meant something was different. Jessica, honey. Her voice was warm but purposeful. I'm calling about my birthday, 75 years old, can you believe it? I smiled despite the surprise. I wouldn't miss it, Grandma. I know you wouldn't. You never do. There was something in her tone, a weight I couldn't quite identify. But before I could ask, she continued. I want you to know something, Jessica. Whatever happens at the party, whatever you might hear or see, remember this. Grandma sees you. I've always seen you. I didn't understand. Grandma, what do you mean? A pause, then softer. Just remember that, okay? Grandma keeps track of everything. We talked for a few more minutes, but my mind kept circling back to those words. Grandma keeps track. At the time, I thought she was being sentimental. Old woman wisdom, I told myself. The kind of thing people say when they're staring down 75. I didn't know then that those words were a warning and a promise. After we hung up, I sat at my table for a long time, thinking about Grandma and the family she'd built. Or rather, the family that had built itself around her while she watched from her garden, notebook in hand, writing everything down. I thought about Emily, my younger sister by 4 years, the one with the big house, the successful husband, the 2 beautiful children, the 80,000 Instagram followers who watched her every curated moment. Family first, her bio read. Blessed beyond measure. Emily had mastered the art of looking successful. Whether she actually was, that was a different question. And then there was me, 36, single, freelance accountant working from a tiny apartment. No husband, no kids, no Instagram following. In my family's eyes, I was the cautionary tale, the one who hadn't figured it out. The one they discussed in hushed tones when they thought I couldn't hear. She's doing fine, my mother would say to anyone who asked, keeping busy with her little freelance thing. Little. As if 16 years of building a client base, earning a CPA license, and maintaining a spotless professional reputation was a hobby, something to fill the time between failures. The truth was, I'd made choices, deliberate ones. I valued flexibility over corner offices, independence over impressive titles. I wasn't unsuccessful, I was just quiet about my success. But in a family that measured worth by Instagram posts and square footage, Quiet meant pathetic. I thought about the last family gathering. Thanksgiving, 8 months ago. Emily had arrived in a new Range Rover, Derek right behind her in his Tesla. They'd parked in the driveway like a car commercial while I pulled up in my 12-year-old Honda, the one that ran perfectly fine and cost me nothing in monthly payments. "Nice car, Jess," Derek had said with that smile of his, the one that looked friendly if you didn't know him, very practical. Practical. Another code word, like cozy, like freelance, like quiet. I'd spent that Thanksgiving in the kitchen, helping Grandma with the turkey while Emily posed for photos with the children. Later, when everyone gathered for the meal, I noticed the seating arrangement. Emily next to Grandma, Derek beside Emily, my mother on Grandma's other side, me at the far end, next to Uncle Frank, who spent the entire meal complaining about his golf game. Nobody planned it that way, I told myself. It's just how things worked out. I was good at telling myself that. Too good. There was something else I'd been telling myself for years, something about my credit score, about the strange dip it had taken 6 years ago when I'd tried to buy a small condo. The mortgage officer had called with confusion in his voice. "Ms. Monroe, there seems to be an issue with your credit history. Your score is significantly lower than expected. I'd never missed a payment, never carried unnecessary debt. But somehow my score had plummeted. Existing debt obligations, they'd said. Accounts I didn't recognize. I'd requested my credit report, gotten overwhelmed by the complexity, and told myself I'd figure it out later. Later never came. I gave up on the condo, moved to the apartment I was sitting in now, and pushed the whole thing to the back of my mind. Now I wondered. Now, sitting in my kitchen with Grandma's strange words echoing in my head, I wondered if maybe I should have looked harder, asked more questions, demanded answers. But that wasn't who I was. I was the quiet one, the one who didn't make waves, the one who accepted her place at the edge of the family photo and smiled anyway. 2 days later, everything changed. It was 10:47 in the evening. I remember the exact time because I looked at my phone when it buzzed, considered ignoring it, almost set it back on the nightstand. I wish I had. And I'm grateful I didn't. The notification glowed on my screen. Emily Monroe added you to Family Core. I stared at it for a long moment. Family Core. I'd never heard of any family group chat. But then again, why would I? I was always the last to know about family plans, always getting information secondhand if I got it at all. Maybe it was new. A party planning group for Grandma's birthday. That would make sense. My thumb hovered over the notification. Something cold crept up my spine, a feeling I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. I tapped the screen. The chat opened, and the first thing I saw was the message count. 1,247. That couldn't be right. I scrolled up, looking for the beginning, trying to understand. The chat was created 6 years ago. 6 years. I checked the member list. My mother, Diane, my sister, Emily, my Aunt Patricia, Derek, Emily's husband, 2 of my cousins, 6 people total. Everyone except Grandma, and everyone except me. For 6 years, my family had maintained a group chat called Family Core, a place to discuss family things, and for 6 years, I wasn't part of it. My hands started shaking, not from cold, from something else entirely. I scrolled to the very beginning, to the first message ever sent 6 years ago when this chat was created. It was from Aunt Patricia. Finally, a place to talk without you-know-who seeing. Emily's reply came seconds later. Failure-free zone, love it. And my mother, my own mother. Girls, don't be mean, but yeah, this is nice, lol. The room tilted. I sat there in the dark, phone glowing in my hands, and felt something crack open inside my chest. They had a name for me, a place to talk about me, a 6-year archive of conversations I was never meant to see. And this was just message 1, 1,246 to go. I didn't sleep that night. By 3 in the morning, I'd read every single message, and by 3:15 I understood exactly what my family had done to me. They hadn't just mocked me, they'd stolen from me. And now, I had proof. Message 1. Failure-free zone. Love it. My sister's words. About me, 1,246 messages left to read. I sat up in bed, blanket pushed aside, the room dark except for the glow of my phone. The clock showed 10:52. 5 minutes since I'd been added to the chat. 5 minutes since my world started tilting off its axis. Part of me wanted to stop, close the app, pretend I'd never seen it, go back to being the woman who didn't know, who couldn't prove the things she'd always suspected. But the accountant in me needed data, needed to understand the full picture before making any decisions. I'd spent 16 years finding discrepancies in other people's spreadsheets. Now I was about to find them in my own family. I scrolled to the beginning and started reading, systematically, oldest to newest. The way you audit a ledger. The first few weeks of messages painted a clear picture of why this chat existed. Aunt Patricia had written, "Jessica's been so negative lately. Everything's a problem with her." My mother responded, "She's just going through a phase." But yes, it's exhausting. Then Emily, "Can we please have one family dinner without her sighing about everything?" I remembered that time. I'd just lost my biggest client, was stressed about making rent, worried about the future. I wasn't being negative. I was struggling, and instead of asking if I was okay, they'd created a secret chat to complain about my attitude. The nicknames evolved slowly, like a wound that festers. Month 1, I was the quiet one. Month 3, the boring one. By month 6, they'd shortened it to you-know-who, like I was some kind of villain they couldn't bear to name. By the end of year 1, I'd become the failure. And by year 2, it had calcified into something permanent. The failure one. Said with such casual cruelty, like it was simply a fact. Like calling the sky blue or water wet. There was a thread about Thanksgiving from year 1. Emily asking, "Should we call her about the holiday?" My mother's response made my stomach turn. "Do we have to?" Then Aunt Patricia chiming in with her verdict. "The failure one will just bring the mood down." And Emily laughing it off. "Lol, true. I'll text her last minute so she can't complain we didn't invite her." I remembered that Thanksgiving. I remembered getting Emily's text 2 days before, feeling grateful to be included at all. I remembered showing up in a blue sweater while everyone else wore coordinated burgundy. The photo from that day was still on Emily's Instagram. "Family photo fail," her caption read, with a laughing emoji. Someone didn't get the memo. They'd planned that. I saw the messages now. The deliberate choice to exclude me from the color coordination, the way they'd laughed afterward. "She looked so confused, Loma ooh," Aunt Patricia had written, and I had been confused. I'd thought it was an accident, a miscommunication. It wasn't. It was never an accident. Year 2 brought a new member to the chat. Derek, Emily's husband, welcomed into the fold with open arms. His first message made me grip my phone tighter. "So this is where the real family talks happen?" "I'm honored," my mother had responded warmly. "Welcome to the inner circle, Derek. Unlike some people, you actually contribute. My brother-in-law was inner circle before I even knew there was a circle." Years 3 and 4 were worse. The mockery deepened, spreading into every corner of my life. My career became a running joke. Aunt Patricia wrote, "Still doing freelance at 34? Some people never grow up." Emily added her assessment. "She says she values flexibility. I say she's scared of real responsibility." My mother piled on. "I just wish she'd get a real job. Something with benefits. A 401k. And Derek, the financial advisor, delivered the final blow. "She probably doesn't even know what a 401k is." The irony burned. I managed 401k accounts for my clients. I'd helped dozens of people plan their retirements, optimize their investments, secure their futures. But my family assumed I was financially illiterate because I didn't brag about my work. In their world, if you weren't advertising your success, you didn't have any. My love life received the same treatment. Emily wrote, "Another year, another empty +1 at Christmas." Aunt Patricia speculated, Has she even dated anyone since that guy in 2019? My mother's contribution cut the deepest. I've stopped hoping for grandchildren from that direction. And my cousin Megan, who I'd always thought was kind, added her own poison. No man wants someone that invisible. Sorry, not sorry. I'd dated. I'd had relationships. I just didn't broadcast them to the world. My love life wasn't empty. It was private. But in a family that measured worth by Instagram posts, private meant pathetic. The comparisons never stopped. Emily just hit 50,000 followers. Does Jessica even have Instagram? Emily's house is gorgeous. Jessica's still in that tiny apartment. Derek got promoted. What does Jessica even do all day? Then Emily wrote something that made me set my phone down and stare at the wall for a full minute. I feel bad for Jess sometimes. I really do. But then I remember she chose this life. She could have tried harder. She just didn't. My mother's agreement came swiftly. You're too kind, honey. Some people are just born without ambition. Born without ambition. The woman who'd given up a full scholarship so Emily could have stability. The daughter who'd turned down a New York job offer to care for her sick mother. That woman, according to them, simply lacked drive. I found a thread about Grandma Margaret that made my blood run cold. Emily had written, Grandma asked about Jessica again. Why is she so obsessed with her? My mother dismissed it. Mom's always had a soft spot for the underdog. Aunt Patricia laughed. She probably feels sorry for her. We all do. Then Emily, with words that would later prove prophetic. Whatever. As long as she doesn't change the will or something stupid. The will. They were already thinking about Grandma's money. And they were worried she might leave some of it to me. Year 5 was when everything changed. The tone of the messages shifted. Less casual cruelty, more strategic discussion. Derek became more active, and the topics moved from mocking me to discussing family finances. I noticed phrases that didn't quite make sense. References to applications and clean credit and accounts. Then I found a thread that made my hands go cold. Derek had written, "The application went through. Clean credit, no issues." My mother responded, "Thank God. I was worried they'd check too closely." Emily added, "She'll never know. She doesn't even open her mail half the time." And Aunt Patricia delivered her verdict with cruel satisfaction. The failure one is finally useful for something. I read those messages 3 times. Application, credit, she'll never know. What application? Whose credit? More references followed, scattered through the year. The scholarship came through. Full ride. Home improvement loan approved. Thank God for clean credit histories. Tax filing accepted. Benefits secured. None of this made sense. None of it connected to anything I knew about. Until I remembered my credit score. The mysterious drop 6 years ago. The existing debt obligations I'd never understood. A cold feeling spread through my chest as I kept scrolling, faster now, searching for something specific. I found it. A message from Derek, month 8 of year 5. Don't worry, I've got samples of her signature from the family trust documents. I can match it perfectly. Emily's response included a kiss emoji. This is why I married you. Derek, the one with access to bank forms. The one who knew how to make financial documents look legitimate. The one who had samples of my handwriting. My brother-in-law hadn't just joined the family conspiracy. He was running it. I scrolled to the top of the chat, hands trembling, looking for attachments. There it was. A folder icon labeled Family Finance Docs. My thumb hovered over it. The clock showed 1:47 in the morning. I'd been reading for 3 hours. Every accountant knows the truth. The documents tell the real story. The numbers don't lie. I wasn't sure I was ready for this story. I tapped the folder anyway. Loading. Then files appeared, one after another. Personal Loan 2019.pdf. Home Improvement 2021.pdf. Tax Benefits 2022.pdf. Scholarship App 2023.pdf. Credit Report jm.pdf. JM Jessica Monroe, my initials. On files I'd never seen, in a chat I'd never been part of. I opened the first document. Personal Loan 2019. First National Bank of Connecticut. Amount, $28,000. Purpose, debt consolidation. Applicant name, Jessica Monroe. My social security number, my address. My employer listed correctly, everything accurate, and at the bottom, a signature. Jessica Monroe, cursive, flowing, confident. I stared at that signature for a full minute. It wasn't mine. The J was wrong. I always make a sharp loop. This one curved softly. The M had an extra flourish I never used. Someone had studied my handwriting. Someone had practiced. But they hadn't gotten it quite right. Someone had forged my signature on a $28,000 loan. I opened every file, hands trembling, eyes burning. The personal loan from 2019, $28,000, forged signature, funds deposited to an account ending in 7743, not my account. I'd later learn it was Emily's. The home improvement loan from 2021, $19,000, listed as improvements for a property at my mother's address. I was named as co-borrower, another forged signature. The tax benefits from 2022, a form claiming I was the primary caregiver for Margaret Monroe. Tax credit received, $4,200. Filed by my mother. I was never designated as caregiver, never received a penny. The scholarship application from 2023. First-generation college student scholarship for Madison, Emily's daughter. $15,000. The application claimed that neither parent nor close relative held a 4-year degree. I have a bachelor's in accounting from University of Connecticut. Graduated with a 3.8. They'd erased my education to benefit themselves. The accountant in me took over. I did the math. Loans, $47,000. Tax fraud, $4,200. Scholarship fraud, $15,000. Total financial impact connected to my name, my identity, my stolen credit, over $66,000. I opened the last file. My credit report. Score, 589. It should have been over 750. The loans were listed as in repayment, meaning someone was making payments, but the debt was still mine. Still destroying my credit, still preventing me from buying a home, building wealth, living my life. This was why I couldn't buy that condo 6 years ago. This was why my credit score never made sense. They'd been stealing from me for years, and I'd blamed myself for failing. The clock showed 2:14 in the morning. I sat in the dark, documents glowing on my screen. 6 years, $66,000, 1,247 messages of mockery. And not a single one of them thought I'd ever find out. Something changed inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding. But underneath it, something harder was forming, something with edges. They called me the failure, the invisible one, the quiet one. But invisible people see everything, quiet people hear everything. And failures? Failures have nothing to lose. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I did what I do best. I opened a blank folder on my laptop, named it Evidence, and I started screenshotting. By sunrise, I had everything. 847 screenshots, 4 fraudulent documents, 1 credit report showing the damage they'd done. They thought they knew me. They thought I'd cry, confront them, beg for explanations. They were wrong. I'm an accountant. I don't do emotions. I do receipts. And I was about to give them the audit of their lives. 2:15 in the morning. I opened a blank spreadsheet. Some people cry when they're betrayed. Some people scream. Some people call their mothers. I make spreadsheets. For 16 years, I'd built a career on finding other people's financial mistakes, uncovering discrepancies they'd tried to hide, following paper trails to their inevitable conclusions. Now I was documenting my own family's crimes. I set up the columns with the same precision I used for client audits. Column A, date. Column B, document type. Column C, amount. Column D, my involvement, with options for none, forged, or fraudulent. Column E, who benefited. Column F, evidence location. If they wanted to treat me like a line item, fine. I'd show them what a line item could do. The hurt could wait. Right now, I needed facts. My eyes burned from staring at screens for hours, but the adrenaline kept me sharp. I made a cup of coffee, sat back down at my laptop, and started the real work. First, the personal loan from 2019, $28,000 from First National Bank of Connecticut. I examined the document with professional eyes this time, not just shocked ones. The application listed the purpose as debt consolidation. Clever, generic enough to avoid questions. My employment was correctly listed as self-employed, accounting services. They knew my work details. They had access to my information. But the income was wrong, inflated by $15,000. First fraud right there. The deposit account ending in 7743, not mine. I cross-referenced with the chat messages from 2019 and found what I was looking for. Emily had written, "The money came through. Thank God. Derek's business was about to go under." Derek responded, "Tell your mom I'll pay it back within 2 years." My mother's reply was casual, dismissive. "Don't worry about it. Jessica will never check." Derek's financial advisory business had been failing. They'd used my credit, my name, my identity to bail him out. The man who mocked my career at every family gathering had saved his own career with my stolen signature. Next, the home improvement loan from 2021, $19,000. The document listed improvements for a property at 1422 Maple Drive. My mother's address. New kitchen, roof repairs. I was named as co-borrower, my forged signature authorizing everything. The chat messages from that year filled in the blanks. My mother had written, "The contractor needs the first payment by Friday." Emily asked, "Can we use the same method as last time?" Derek's response was confident, "Already done, signed and submitted." And Aunt Patricia praised him warmly. "Derek, you're a genius. Diane, you raised a good son-in-law." I remembered Thanksgiving, 2021. My mother had spent the entire meal showing off her new kitchen, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. She'd made pointed comments about my outdated apartment, my cheap laminate counters, my secondhand furniture. She mocked my home while standing in a kitchen I'd unknowingly paid for. I pulled up both loan signatures side by side on my screen, compared them carefully. The same forger had done both. The J looped the same wrong way. The M had that same unnecessary flourish. Someone had practiced my signature. Someone had studied my handwriting samples. A message from Derek in 2019 confirmed everything. "Don't worry, I've got samples of her signature from the family trust documents. I can match it perfectly." Emily's response, "This is why I married you," with a kiss emoji. The family trust. Of course. Years ago, Grandma had set up a small trust and everyone had signed paperwork. Derek must have kept copies, studied my handwriting, perfected his forgery. My brother-in-law wasn't just a participant. He was the architect, the one with the financial knowledge to make fraud look legitimate, the one with access to banks, notaries, forms, the one who'd turned my identity into a family resource. I moved to the tax fraud, 2022, the IRS form for dependent care credit. Filed by Diane Monroe. Claim that Jessica Monroe provided primary caregiving services for Margaret Monroe. Tax benefit received, $4,200. I stared at that form for a long time. Primary caregiver for Grandma. The truth was complicated. I did visit Grandma every week. I drove her to appointments, picked up her medications, called to check on her at night. I did these things because I loved her. Because she was the only person in my family who seemed to actually see me. I never asked for payment, never expected compensation, never agreed to be listed on any official documents. My mother had claimed the tax credit for caregiving I provided for free. She got the money. I got the title of the failure who has nothing better to do than visit an old woman. The chat messages about the tax filing made it worse. My mother had written, "The tax return is done. We're getting $4,200 back." Emily asked how. My mother explained casually, "Listed Jessica as caregiver for Mom." Technically true, right? She's always over there. Derek approved. Smart. Just make sure Jessica never sees the filing. And Aunt Patricia added her assessment with a laughing emoji. She won't. She probably doesn't even do her own taxes properly. The joke landed differently now. I was a professional accountant. I'd prepared hundreds of tax returns. I knew more about tax law than anyone in that chat. But they assumed incompetence because I didn't brag. They assumed ignorance because I was quiet. They'd monetized my love for Grandma without my knowledge, turned my genuine care into a line item on their tax return. I wasn't just a resource to them, I was a write-off. The scholarship fraud was the final document. 2023. A first-generation college student scholarship for Madison Monroe. Emily's daughter, my niece. $15,000 over 4 years. The eligibility requirements were clear. The applicant must be a first-generation college student. Neither parent nor close family member, including aunts and uncles, may hold a 4-year degree. I read the application. Emily Monroe, some college, no degree. True. Derek Monroe, associate's degree only. True. Jessica Monroe, aunt, high school diploma only. False. Completely, deliberately false. I hold a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Connecticut. Graduated with a 3.8 GPA. 4 years of coursework, countless exams, a degree I'd earned while working part-time to pay my own tuition because my family said they couldn't help. They didn't just lie on a federal scholarship application, they erased my education. Pretended my degree didn't exist. Also, Emily's daughter could get money she wasn't entitled to. The chat messages about the scholarship revealed the premeditation. Emily had written, "Madison got the scholarship. Full ride." My mother asked how. Emily explained, "Derek found this first-gen scholarship. We just had to fudge Jessica's education a little." Aunt Patricia questioned it. "Does she even have a degree?" I forget. My mother couldn't remember. She went to community college, I think, something like that. Emily dismissed the whole thing. Whatever. The point is, they didn't check. $15,000, baby, 4 years of college. A 3.8 GPA. And my own family couldn't remember I'd graduated. They measured my worth by what I didn't have, never by what I'd actually accomplished. But the worst part came in a follow-up message from Derek. Just to be safe, I backdated the application to before Jessica's name shows up on any public records. Covered our tracks. Emily praised him. "You think of everything." Derek responded with a sunglasses emoji. "It's what I do." Backdated. Covered tracks. This wasn't carelessness or ignorance. This was premeditated fraud with deliberate steps to avoid detection. They'd thought of everything. Except for the possibility that I might find out. I needed more. I searched the chat for Grandma, wanting to understand if she knew anything, if anyone had mentioned her beyond the tax fraud. Dozens of results, mostly casual, party planning, birthday gifts, complaints about her asking too many questions. But one thread caught my attention. The subject line made my heart skip. Grandma's lawyer called. 4 months ago, Emily had written, "Heads up." Grandma's lawyer called Mom. Something about estate review. My mother responded, "He wants to verify beneficiaries." Normal stuff? Derek asked carefully, "Did he ask about any accounts or loans?" My mother said no, not specifically. Then Derek, just making sure. We should keep things clean for a while. Aunt Patricia asked what he meant. Derek explained, "I mean no new applications. Let things settle. If anyone starts looking too closely..." Emily cut him off. "Derek, relax. Grandma's 74. She probably just wants to make sure her will is in order." Derek's final message was telling. That's exactly what I'm worried about. I searched for more recent messages, found another thread from 3 months ago. My mother had written, "Update. The lawyer wants to see documentation for family finances. Routine estate planning," he said. Emily asked what that meant. Derek responded, "It means someone's asking questions. Everyone act normal. If Grandma brings anything up, change the subject." Aunt Patricia reported, "She's been asking about Jessica a lot lately, wanting to know if she's doing okay financially." Emily sounded annoyed. "Ugh, she's obsessed with her. My mother gave instructions. Just tell her Jessica's fine. Keep her out of our business." The timeline clicked into place. 4 months ago, Grandma's lawyer started an estate review. 3 months ago, the family got nervous, decided to act normal. 2 weeks ago, Grandma called me directly, said those strange words. I see you. Grandma keeps track of everything. And then, days later, I was accidentally added to the chat. Grandma knew something. Her lawyer was investigating. That's why they were nervous. That's why Derek wanted everything to stay clean for a while. Grandma's words echoed in my head. Grandma keeps track of everything. One final message made my blood run cold. From just 2 weeks ago, after the lawyer's inquiry. My mother had written. The lawyer called again. He wants copies of all documents bearing Jessica Monroe's name. What do we do? Derek responded. Stall. Say we need time to gather everything. Emily asked the obvious question. And then what? Derek's answer was chilling. And then we figure out how to make this go away. 2 weeks ago. The same week Grandma had called about her party. They were trying to make the evidence disappear. They were trying to keep Grandma in the dark. They had no idea I already had copies. I closed the last chat window. The clock showed 6:17 in the morning. Sun was starting to rise outside my window, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I'd been at this for 8 hours straight. The spreadsheet was complete. Every fraud documented, every timestamp recorded, every connection mapped. Total fraudulent debt in my name, $47,000. Tax fraud, $4,200. Scholarship fraud, $15,000. Total financial impact, over $66,000. Years of fraud, 6. Number of family members involved, 6. Number who apologized, 0. I had 847 screenshots, 4 forged documents, 1 credit report showing the damage, and 1 master spreadsheet connecting everything. Enough evidence to press charges, enough evidence to destroy them. But destruction wasn't what I wanted. I closed my laptop, stared at the sunrise. I didn't want revenge. I wanted something simpler. I wanted them to stop pretending, stop lying, stop treating me like I didn't exist except when they needed something. I wanted the truth spoken out loud, in a room full of people who'd helped them build the lie. Grandma's party was in 3 weeks. 65 guests. Everyone who mattered, the perfect audience. I showered, made fresh coffee, felt strangely calm. I should have been crying, screaming, falling apart. Instead, I felt clear, like I'd been looking at the world through fog for 36 years, and someone had finally wiped the glass. I turned my phone back on for the first time since the night before. Notifications flooded in. 23 missed calls from Emily, 17 from my mother, 8 from Derek, 4 from Aunt Patricia. Dozens of texts, all variations of the same plea. Please call me. We can explain. I read none of them. Among the chaos, one message stood out. An unknown number. Ms. Monroe, this is Howard Chen from Chen & Associates, your grandmother's legal counsel. Mrs. Margaret has asked me to contact you regarding a matter of some urgency. Please call at your earliest convenience. Grandma's lawyer. Reaching out directly. Not through my mother. Not through the family chain. Grandma wasn't just asking questions. She was looking for answers. And now, so was I. I saved the number, typed a reply. Mr. Chen, I'm available this afternoon. I believe we have a lot to discuss. I hit send. They wanted to make the evidence disappear. They wanted to keep Grandma in the dark. They thought they could handle me, handle her, make this all go away. They were about to learn that some things can't be hidden, and some people can't be silenced. I should have slept. My body was running on 8 hours of adrenaline and cold coffee, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. I sat at my small kitchen table, laptop closed, staring at nothing. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and ordinary, like the world hadn't completely changed overnight. $66,000, 6 years of fraud, a lifetime of mockery. But one question kept circling back, louder than all the others. How did I become invisible? I didn't mean physically invisible, I meant something deeper. How did I become someone my family could exploit without guilt? Someone they could steal from and mock in the same breath? Someone whose name they could forge without a second thought? Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being a person to them. I'd become a resource, a signature, a credit score. When did that happen? And why didn't I see it? My eyes landed on a framed photo on the bookshelf across the room. Grandma Margaret's 70th birthday, 5 years ago. I was in the picture, barely, standing at the edge, half cut off by the frame. Emily was front and center, arm wrapped around Grandma, smile brilliant for the camera. That photo told the whole story. I just hadn't known how to read it. But to understand that photo, you need to understand what came before. Before I was 8 years old, I was enough. I was everything. My father called me his little genius. He'd found me at age 5, sitting on the kitchen floor, sorting his loose change into piles by year and denomination. He'd laughed, scooped me up, told my mother that their daughter was going to run a bank someday. I loved numbers even then. The way they made sense, the way they never lied. My mother took me to dance classes, piano lessons, showed me off to her friends. Look at my Jessica, so smart, so capable. For 8 years, I was the center of their world, the only child, the focus of everything. Then came the announcement. My mother had struggled to conceive after me. Miscarriage after miscarriage, years of hoping and disappointment. Then, when I was 7, the news arrived. You're going to be a big sister. Emily was born when I was 8, the miracle baby, the answered prayer, the fresh start after years of loss. The shift began immediately. Suddenly, everything revolved around Emily, the nursery that used to be my playroom, the attention that used to be mine. The conversations that used to include me now happened over my head, about feeding schedules and diaper changes and isn't she beautiful? I told myself it was normal. Babies need more care. I was a big girl now. I could handle it. My role transformed overnight, from the daughter to the helper. Can you watch Emily while I make dinner? Be quiet. Emily's sleeping. You're the big sister. You should know better. My father left when I was 10. Emily was 2. He said he couldn't handle the pressure anymore, the demands, the constant needs. I remember standing in the doorway as he packed his car, hoping he'd look at me. He did once. Smiled that sad smile. Then he took Emily's photo from his wallet, tucked it into his bag, and drove away. I never understood why he took her photo and not mine. I still don't. After the divorce, my mother leaned harder on me. Help me with Emily. Help me with the house. Help me hold this family together. I was 10 years old, and I was already carrying weight that wasn't mine. My 11th birthday was supposed to be special. I'd asked for a calculator, a real one, not a toy. I loved numbers even then. My mother had planned a party, invitations sent, cake ordered, friends excited. The morning of the party, Emily got sick, fever and crying and demands for attention. My mother sat me down, face apologetic but firm. Honey, we'll have to reschedule. Emily needs me. The party never happened. The calculator came 3 months later, unwrapped, with a mumbled, "Sorry, I forgot." That was the first time I learned the lesson my family would teach me over and over again. Emily's needs came first. Mine could wait, or be forgotten entirely. By the time I was 16, I'd internalized that lesson completely. Junior year of high school, I'd worked incredibly hard. 4.0 GPA, honor roll, math team captain, early admission application to Boston University accounting program. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I remember holding that envelope, hands shaking. I'd never wanted anything so badly. I tore it open, scanned the words, felt my heart explode. Congratulations, full scholarship, 4 years, everything paid. For 5 minutes, I was the happiest I'd ever been. Then I told my mother. Her face fell immediately. Boston? That's so far away. Emily's only 8. She needs stability. She needs her sister. And what about me? Who's going to help me around the house? The pressure campaign began that night. My mother cried, said she couldn't do it alone, said she'd sacrificed everything for us girls, and now I wanted to abandon her. Aunt Patricia called, voice dripping with disappointment. Your mother sacrificed everything for you. Now you want to leave her? Even Emily, coached or genuine, I'll never know, wrapped her arms around my legs and begged, "Don't leave me, Jessie, please." I turned down the scholarship. Enrolled in community college nearby instead. Lived at home, helped with Emily, helped with bills, helped with everything. I told myself it was the right thing, family first. That's what good daughters do. Funny thing is, no one ever thanked me. They just expected it. Like it was obvious that I would stay. Like leaving was never really an option. Years later, Emily went to college, out of state, full support from my mother. No guilt trips, no we need you here. Suddenly distance didn't matter. Suddenly my mother could manage alone. I didn't realize it then, but the pattern was already set. I sacrifice. Emily receives. And no one notices the difference. I kept the Boston University acceptance letter. Found it years later in a box of old papers. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, were words I was never meant to see. Thank God she's staying. Don't know what I'd do without her help with E. She never told me she was relieved, never acknowledged what I gave up. Just wrote it on the back of my broken dream like a grocery note. At 24, I got a second chance. 8 years after the scholarship sacrifice, I'd built a solid career, CPA license, good reputation, steady clients. Then an opportunity appeared, a job offer from a Manhattan accounting firm, senior associate position. Salary nearly double my current income. This was my second chance. Boston had slipped away, but New York was calling. 1 week before I planned to accept, my mother called. Voice shaky, uncertain. I'm having some health issues, Jessica. The doctor wants to run tests. It wasn't life-threatening. Thyroid problems, manageable with medication and monitoring. But my mother painted it as a crisis. Made it sound like she might not survive the month. I called Emily, desperate. Can you come home? Help with Mom? Her response still echoes in my mind. I can't right now. I just started my new job. And Derek and I are trying to get pregnant. You're closer anyway. And you don't have as much going on. Don't have as much going on. Translation, my life mattered less. I turned down the New York job. Stayed to help my mother through her health crisis. Drove her to appointments, managed her medications, handled insurance paperwork. She recovered within 3 months, fully fine. By then, the New York job was gone, filled by someone else, someone whose family didn't need them to stay small. While I played caregiver, Emily's life blossomed. She announced her pregnancy, huge celebration. She got promoted at work. My mother flew out to celebrate. She bought her first house. The family helped with the down payment. I spent 6 months managing my mother's pill schedule. Emily spent 6 months building her perfect life. And when my mother recovered, she told everyone, I don't know what I would have done without Emily's emotional support. She called every single day. Emily called, I was there. But Emily got the credit for phone calls while I got nothing for physical presence. I was 25 when I overheard the conversation that finally broke something inside me. Family dinner at my mother's house. I stepped away to use the bathroom. On my way back, I heard voices from the kitchen. My mother and Aunt Patricia, speaking in that tone people use when they think no one's listening. Jessica's doing fine, my mother said, but I worry about her future. No husband, no real career ambition. She's just content to be ordinary. Aunt Patricia agreed readily. Emily, on the other hand, that girl is going places. I stood in that hallway and felt something inside me go quiet, not angry, not sad, just quiet, like a light switching off. At 30, I tried one more time to build something for myself. I'd saved enough for a down payment. Found a perfect small condo, nothing fancy but mine. A place I could own outright. Independence, security, proof that the quiet daughter had accomplished something. The mortgage application should have been simple. Good income, no debt that I knew of. Responsible spending habits. Then the call came. Ms. Monroe, there seems to be an issue with your credit history. Your score is significantly lower than expected. I was confused. I'd never missed a payment. Never carried credit card debt. How could my score be in the 500s? The loan officer mentioned existing debt obligations I didn't recognize. I requested my credit report, but the complexity overwhelmed me. Numbers that didn't make sense. Accounts I'd never opened. I gave up on the condo, told myself I'd figure it out later. I never connected the dots, never realized that my existing debt obligations were loans my family had taken in my name. When I mentioned the credit issue at family dinner, the responses were telling. My mother offered sympathy with a sting. "Maybe you should be more careful with money, honey." Emily was helpful in a way that now makes my skin crawl. "Credit stuff is confusing. Derek could look at it for you if you want." Derek nodded eagerly. "Happy to help. Just send me your info." I almost did. I almost sent my financial information to the man who was actively destroying my credit. Something stopped me. Instinct, maybe. Or just the look in Derek's eyes. A little too eager. A little too interested. Now I understood. He'd been afraid I'd discover what he'd done. Offering to help was his way of controlling the damage. Throughout all these years, one person remained steady. Grandma Margaret. While everyone else was too busy seeing Emily, Grandma was watching me, noticing me, keeping track. I remember being 16, crying in my room after giving up Boston. Grandma came to visit, found me with tears streaming down my face. "You gave up the scholarship, didn't you?" I nodded. She took my hand, held it tight. "You're a good girl, Jessica. Too good, maybe. But remember something. Being kind doesn't mean being invisible. Don't let them make you small." I didn't understand then. I do now. At 24, after New York fell through, Grandma called me directly. "I heard about the job. I'm sorry." I gave her the excuse I'd been telling myself. "It's okay. Family needs me." Her response was quiet but firm. "Family should need you and want you to succeed. Those aren't opposites, sweetheart." At 30, after the condo denial, I visited Grandma, frustrated and confused. I didn't go into details, just mentioned financial complications. She studied my face with those sharp eyes. "Jessica, if something doesn't add up, don't ignore it. You're an accountant. Trust your instincts." I should have listened harder. Grandma kept a notebook. I'd noticed it for years. Small leather cover, always nearby. Once I asked her, "What do you write in there?" "Everything, honey. Who visits, who calls, who actually shows up versus who just talks about showing up." I keep track. Someone should. At the time, I thought it was just an old woman's quirk. Now I understood. Grandma wasn't being sentimental. She was building a record. 2 months before the group chat discovery, I visited Grandma as usual. Sunday afternoon. Tea in the garden. She seemed more serious than normal, more focused. "Jessica, I need to ask you something important. And I need you to be honest." "Of course, Grandma. Has anyone in this family ever asked you to sign something you didn't understand? Or used your name for anything without asking?" I was confused. "No, I don't think so. Why?" She studied me for a long moment. Those eyes that missed nothing. "No reason, honey. Just making sure." She knew. Even then, she suspected something. She was giving me a chance to connect the dots myself. As I was leaving that day, she said something else. Something I'd dismissed as old woman sentimentality. "Whatever happens in the next few weeks, remember this. Grandma sees you. Grandma has always seen you. And when the truth comes out, I want you to know. None of it is your fault." I thought she was being dramatic, preparing for mortality. The kind of thing people say at 74. She wasn't being dramatic. She was preparing me. I blinked, returned to the present, still sitting at my kitchen table, coffee cold again. Hours had passed while I was lost in memory. 36 years of being the responsible one, the one who stayed, the one who helped. And in return, I was mocked, exploited, erased. They made me invisible because invisible people don't ask questions, don't demand credit, don't notice when their name is being used to fund someone else's life. I wasn't born invisible. They made me that way. One sacrifice at a time, one dismissal at a time, one you don't have as much going on at a time. And I let them. That was the hardest part to accept. I let them. But invisible people see everything. We watch, we listen, we notice. And now I had proof of exactly what I'd seen. My phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number. Mr. Howard Chen. Miss Monroe, I can meet you today at 2 p.m. if that works. My office is downtown. Your grandmother specifically requested that this meeting remain confidential. Confidential. From her own family, I typed back. I'll be there. I looked at the photo on the bookshelf one more time. The one where I was barely in frame. The one where Emily stood center stage while I faded into the edges. For 36 years, I'd accepted my place at the margin of the family photo. Not anymore. It was time to step into the center and let them see exactly who they'd been looking past. Chen and Associates occupied the third floor of a brick building downtown. Old Connecticut money architecture. The kind that whispered, "Trust me," without saying a word. I arrived at 1:52 in the afternoon, 8 minutes early. My laptop bag hung heavy on my shoulder, weighted with evidence I'd spent the morning organizing. 847 screenshots, 4 fraudulent documents, 1 master spreadsheet connecting everything. I'd spent my career walking into meetings with other people's financial secrets. This was the first time I was walking in with my own. The receptionist led me down a hallway lined with oak panels and framed degrees. Everything about this place spoke of legitimacy, permanence, the kind of stability my family had only ever pretended to have. Grandma's lawyer wanted to meet in secret, away from the family. Either she was protecting me, or she was about to deliver news that would change everything. I was hoping for the first, bracing for the second. The corner office door opened, and I got my first look at Howard Chen, mid-60s. Silver hair swept back from a weathered face. Calm demeanor that suggested he'd heard every secret and kept all of them. The walls behind him were lined with degrees from Yale and Columbia, family photos spanning decades, awards from legal associations I recognized. 30 years as Margaret's estate attorney. He knew my family's history better than I did. Ms. Monroe. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. Thank you for coming on short notice. I sat, gripping my bag. What's this about? Your grandmother insisted I reach out to you directly. Not through your mother, not through Emily. He paused, letting that sink in. She was very specific about that. Why? Howard studied me for a moment. The same assessing gaze Grandma used when she was deciding whether to share something important. Because she believes, and I'm inclined to agree, that you're the only member of this family who hasn't been lying to her. The words hit like a physical blow. Validation and accusation wrapped together. Howard opened a drawer, pulled out a thick folder. 4 months ago, your grandmother asked me to conduct a routine estate review. Standard procedure for someone her age. During that review, I discovered some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Loans, tax filings, scholarship applications. All connected to one name that kept appearing in places it shouldn't. My throat tightened. My name. Your name. He nodded slowly. On documents you clearly didn't sign. So Grandma knew. She'd been investigating. While I was going about my life, oblivious, my grandmother had been quietly uncovering everything. She asked me to investigate without alerting the family. Howard slid the folder across the desk. She didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. Over the past 4 months, I've compiled a complete record. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were copies of the same documents I'd found in the chat. The personal loan, the home improvement loan, the tax claims, the scholarship application. But there was more. Documents I hadn't seen, records I didn't know existed. I believe you've been compiling something similar. Howard's eyes were knowing. Your grandmother said you were thorough, the accountant in the family. She knew I'd find out. She hoped you would. She also hoped she could protect you from the worst of it before you did. I flipped through the pages, my professional eye catching details I'd missed in my exhausted late-night review. Then I stopped cold. A notarized letter, dated 2020. Authorization to act on behalf of Jessica Monroe in all financial matters. My name typed neatly at the top. My social security number, my address. and at the bottom a signature that looked almost like mine. Almost. A notary stamp made it official. Legal. Binding. This is a power of attorney. My voice came out hollow. Someone gave themselves legal authority to act on my behalf. Not someone. Howard's voice was gentle but firm. Derek Monroe. Your brother-in-law. With this document, he could sign on your behalf. Open accounts, apply for loans, all perfectly legal-looking. I stared at the forged signature. The careful loops. The practiced strokes. Derek hadn't just forged individual signatures. He'd forged my entire financial identity, created a legal framework that allowed him to become me whenever he needed money. Howard continued. This is how he made everything look legitimate. Power of attorney on file, signatures that matched, a paper trail that would hold up to casual scrutiny. How did Grandma find out? Howard leaned back. Your grandmother keeps a notebook. Has for years. She tracks who visits, who calls, who actually shows up. About a year ago, she noticed a pattern. Emily talked about money constantly, new purchases, renovations, Derek's business success. But Emily's actual visits decreased, and her requests for loans from your grandmother increased. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, your mother asked your grandmother to co-sign a loan. Just a formality, she said. The bank needs a guarantor. Your grandmother asked to see the paperwork first. Your mother stalled, changed the subject, eventually said they'd figured out another solution. That's when she called you. That's when she called me. She said, Howard, something's wrong. Find out what. I sat with that for a moment. My grandmother, 74 years old, sharp as ever, watching her family unravel and choosing to investigate rather than ignore. There's something else. Howard's voice dropped. This is recent. Just 3 weeks ago. He slid another document across the desk. An application for a home equity line of credit. Property listed as Margaret Monroe's residence. Grandma's house. Applicant, Derek Monroe, acting on behalf of Margaret Monroe. Amount requested, $150,000. Status, pending. My blood went cold. They were trying to leverage Grandma's house, without her knowledge. This application was submitted using a forged power of attorney for your grandmother, similar to yours. Derek created documents giving himself authority over her finances, too. They were going to steal from Grandma. They were going to take everything she had. Howard's jaw tightened. The house she's lived in for 40 years. Her life savings, everything. That's when she decided. No more investigation. Time for action. The full scope of what Howard had uncovered made my head spin. The personal loan, $28,000. Funds traced to Derek's business account. Used to cover gambling losses at a Connecticut casino. Gambling. Derek had a gambling problem. The home improvement loan, $19,000. Mother's house, never repaid. Still accruing interest in my name. The tax fraud, $4,200. Mother claimed benefits she wasn't entitled to. Used my caregiving as a write-off while giving me nothing. The scholarship fraud, $15,000. Madison's application contained material falsehoods about my education. The power of attorney, created in 2020, giving Derek legal control over my financial life. And now, the home equity application. $150,000. Grandma's house as collateral, 4 people, 6 years. And you were the only one who didn't know. Howard listed them quietly. Derek orchestrated everything. Emily enabled it. Your mother participated willingly. Your aunt facilitated the tax fraud. A family conspiracy, organized and systematic, with me as the unwitting source of funds. What does Grandma want to do? Howard folded his hands. Your grandmother could press charges. The evidence is overwhelming. Derek alone faces potential prison time, identity theft, forgery, bank fraud. The sentences could run consecutively. But that's not what she wants. She's 75 years old. She's watched her family lie, cheat, and steal. But they're still her family. Then what does she want? The truth. In front of everyone. No more hiding. No more pretending. Howard explained the plan. Grandma's 75th birthday party, 2.5 weeks away, 65 guests, family, friends, neighbors, business associates, everyone who mattered to the Monroe family social standing. She wants to use that moment to expose what's been happening. Publicly, undeniably, with witnesses who can't be gaslit or manipulated. And she wants me there. She wants you front and center, not in the back, not on the edges. You've been invisible long enough. My role was simple. Be present. Answer honestly if Grandma asked me questions. Let the family see that I knew what they'd done. She'll do the heavy lifting, Howard assured me. The accusations, the evidence, the confrontation. That's her responsibility. All she needs from you is to stand beside her and tell the truth. I thought about 36 years of standing at the edges, of being overlooked and underestimated, of watching Emily take center stage while I faded into the background. I've been waiting my whole life to be seen. I can handle standing in the middle of a room. Howard nodded, something like respect in his eyes. Then he handed me a business card. This is my associate, Rachel Chen. No relation. She specializes in identity theft and financial fraud. If you want to build a legal case for yourself, even just for protection, she's the best. That evening, I met Rachel Chen at a coffee shop downtown, mid-30s. Sharp eyes behind simple glasses. No-nonsense demeanor that reminded me of myself on my best days. Howard told me about your situation. She flipped through the evidence I'd brought, the screenshots, the documents, my master spreadsheet. I've seen a lot of fraud cases. This one's impressive. And I don't mean that as a compliment to your family. What are my options? Legally? She set down her coffee. You could press criminal charges. Identity theft, forgery, bank fraud. Derek alone could face 5 to 10 years. And the others? Your mother and aunt, accessory charges. Emily, conspiracy. Everyone involved could face consequences. This isn't just civil liability. This is criminal. I absorbed that. My mother in court. My sister facing charges. Derek in prison. The question is, what do you want? I'd been asking myself that same question since 3 a.m. I don't want to destroy them. The words came slowly, carefully. I want them to stop. I want them to acknowledge what they did. I want my name cleared, my credit restored. And I want it on the record, legally and publicly, that I was a victim, not a participant. Rachel nodded like she'd expected that answer. Then here's what we do. We document everything. Create an airtight file. After your grandmother's party, we send formal letters to everyone involved. Repay the loans, correct the tax filings, admit to the scholarship fraud, or face civil and criminal action. We give them a choice. They can make this right quietly, or they can make it right in court. Either way, your name gets cleared. She paused, scrolling through chat screenshots I'd provided. One more thing. She stopped at a thread from 3 months ago. Her expression sharpened. Emily to Derek. How are we going to make the next loan payment? We're already behind on the house. Derek's response. I'll figure something out. I always do. Emily again. Derek, I'm serious. If we default, it goes on Jessica's credit again. People might start asking questions. Derek's final message. Then we make sure no one asks questions. Rachel looked up. They're not just fraudsters. They're broke. The perfect family image. The Instagram lifestyle. The expensive house and fancy cars. It's financed entirely by your stolen identity. Without you, they have nothing. I returned home that evening with a new understanding. I opened my laptop, combined Howard's documents with my own, created a master timeline of every fraudulent act, every forged signature, every stolen dollar. Derek's finances were worse than I'd realized. The chat messages painted a picture of desperation. His financial advisor business had been struggling for years. The gambling problem explained the cash flow issues. He'd borrowed from clients, covered losses with my credit, and he was currently 3 months behind on his own mortgage. Derek wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a desperate man who'd found an easy victim. Emily's perfect marriage was cracking too. Chat messages revealed constant money stress. Emily complaining about Derek's stupid investments. Derek snapping back about Emily's expensive lifestyle, references to marriage counseling that didn't work. Instagram. Emily had 80,000 followers watching her perfect life. Real Emily was drowning in debt and a failing marriage, and I was the life raft they'd been clinging to without my knowledge. My mother's role was clearer now too. She'd known about every fraud, participated in several, used her health crisis to keep me close and controllable. The chat messages showed her justifying it to herself. Jessica doesn't need the money anyway. We're doing her a favor, really, giving her a purpose. A favor? They stole $66,000 and called it a favor. One final discovery made my jaw clench. A chat message from last week, after I'd been accidentally added. Derek to Emily. If she shows up at the party, we handle it. Deny everything. Make her look crazy. Emily's concern. What if Grandma believes her? Derek's response dripping with condescension. Grandma's 75. We can manage her. My mother, agreeing. Derek's right. We've handled Jessica for years. This is no different. They were still planning, still scheming, still underestimating everyone. They thought they could manage Grandma. They had no idea what was coming. I closed my laptop, stared at the evidence folder on my desktop. Every fraud documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced. For the first time in my life, I wasn't facing my family alone. Grandma Margaret was orchestrating the exposure. Howard Chen provided legal protection for her. Rachel Chen provided legal protection for me. Cousin Nathan, who I'd be meeting soon, had his own evidence to share. 2.5 weeks until the party. They thought they had time. Time to deny, deflect, gaslight. They thought I'd confront them privately, where they could spin the narrative. They didn't know Grandma was involved. Didn't know lawyers were building cases. Didn't know I had more evidence than they could imagine. They thought this was just about a group chat. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Jess, I know you're upset. Can we please talk before the party? I can explain everything. It's not what you think. And then a heart emoji. A red heart. Like we were close. Like we were actually sisters. I typed a reply. I'll see you at Grandma's party, Emily. We can talk then. Hit send. Let her think she still had control. Let them all think that. In 2.5 weeks, they'd learn the truth, and I'd finally step out of the shadows. 10 days before Grandma's party, 5 days since I'd been accidentally added to Family Core. 5 days since I'd read every message, documented every fraud, built a case that could send my brother-in-law to prison. And in all that time, I hadn't said a single word. Silence is an accountant's best friend. When you're auditing someone, you don't announce your findings mid-review. You wait. You watch. You let them think they're safe. Then you present the evidence and watch the explanations crumble. My family thought my silence meant ignorance. They assumed I either hadn't noticed the chat, hadn't read the messages, or was too stupid to understand what I'd seen. Let them assume. Assumptions make people careless. The messages continued in Family Core as if nothing had happened. I could still see them, forwarded by Howard's office, who had legal access to monitor the situation. Party planning discussions, arguments about centerpieces and seating charts. And buried between the mundane details, mockery of my boring gift idea, and speculation about whether I'd even show up. Derek's confidence was almost amusing. She probably doesn't even check her notifications. We're fine, Emily had asked. Should we remove her from the chat? My mother's response was telling. Don't. That'll make her suspicious. Just act normal. They decided to act normal. As if $66,000 of fraud was normal. As if forging someone's identity was just another Tuesday. Saturday afternoon, 10 days before the party. I was working from home reviewing client files when my doorbell rang. Unexpected visitors were rare at my apartment. Most people called first. Most people didn't have my address memorized. I checked the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Emily, standing in the hallway, designer bag on her arm, fresh blowout, practiced smile already in place. My sister hadn't visited my apartment in over 2 years. The last time she'd made comments about the size, the location, the furniture, managed to insult everything in under 15 minutes before rushing off to somewhere more important. Now here she was, unannounced, uninvited. I knew exactly why she'd come. I opened the door. Emily rushed forward, arms outstretched, pulling me into a hug I didn't return. My arms stayed at my sides while she squeezed. "Jess, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by." "We never hang out anymore." In the neighborhood. I lived 40 minutes from her house in the opposite direction of anywhere she'd need to be. She walked past me into the apartment, surveying the space with that look she always wore here. Evaluating, judging. It's so cozy, very you. You've said that before. Cozy is code for small. She laughed, but it came out wrong. Too high, too nervous. The small talk was painful to watch. She commented on my plants, my bookshelf, asked about work in that dismissive way that made it clear she wasn't actually interested. Still doing the freelance thing? That must be nice. Flexible. Every compliment felt like a knife wrapped in ribbon. Finally, she got to the point. So, she perched on the edge of my second-hand couch like it might stain her designer jeans. "I know you got added to that group chat." I said nothing, waited. Emily fidgeted with her bag strap. "It was an accident. I was trying to add someone else and hit your name by mistake. My name is next to Mom in her contacts. She'd have to scroll past it deliberately to reach anyone else. But I didn't say that. I just listened." "The things in that chat," she continued, talking faster now, "we were just venting. You know how families are. Everyone complains sometimes. It doesn't mean anything." I remained silent. "The nickname stuff, that was Aunt Patricia. You know how she is. We just went along with it. It was never serious. We love you, Jess. You know that." Her voice had that practiced sincerity she used for sponsored Instagram posts, the one that sounded warm if you didn't know her. I finally spoke. "What about the loans?" Emily froze, just for a second. A flicker of something cold behind her eyes before the mask slipped back into place. "What loans? The $28,000 personal loan? The $19,000 home improvement loan? The ones in my name?" "Those were." She paused, recalculating. "Those were temporary. We were going to pay them back." "Were?" "They're still on my credit, Emily. Derek's handling it. He's working on a plan to pay back money you stole using my identity." "Stole is a strong word, Jessica." She stood abruptly, her composure cracking. "We're family. We help each other. I didn't help anyone. I didn't know. You didn't need to know. You never use your credit anyway." There it was. The same logic from the chat. The same justification. I never needed the things they took from me. Emily shifted tactics. The tears appeared on cue. I couldn't tell if they were practiced or real. "Look, I know we should have told you. I know it looks bad. But you don't understand the pressure I've been under." The victim narrative began. "Derek's business has been struggling. We almost lost the house last year. Mom needed help with bills. The renovation was necessary. We were drowning, Jess. We didn't have a choice. You had a choice. You could have asked me. Would you have said yes? The question hung between us. I guess we'll never know. Because you didn't ask. You just took." Emily abandoned the tears. Her expression hardened into something more familiar. The calculating look she used when negotiations weren't going her way. "The thing is, Grandma's party is coming up. I know. We need to present a united front. As a family. If Grandma finds out about any of this, it could kill her. Literally. Her heart is fragile. The manipulation was textbook. Use Grandma's health as a weapon. Make me responsible for any consequences. Can we just keep this between us? Figure it out after the party? I'm asking you as your sister, Jess. Please." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot below. "You want me to stay quiet so you can keep pretending nothing happened. I want us to handle this privately. Like family." "Family? That's interesting. Because according to your chat, I'm not part of the core family." Emily's composure cracked further. Don't make this a bigger deal than it needs to be. You're not the victim here, Jessica. You've always had it easy. No husband, no kids, no real responsibilities. The rest of us have been carrying this family while you just existed. The rest of you have been carrying my credit score. There's a difference. Emily moved toward the door. Her voice dropped to something cold, something honest. You're going to regret this, making enemies of your own family. I didn't make enemies, Emily. I just stopped being your piggy bank. She paused at the door. One last attempt. What are you going to do? I haven't decided yet. That was a lie. I'd decided days ago. I just wasn't ready to show my hand. Emily left. The apartment fell silent. She'd come to threaten me into submission. Instead, she'd confirmed everything I already knew. They weren't sorry. They were scared. And scared people make mistakes. I sat with her visit for hours, processing, calculating. No husband, no kids, no real responsibilities. The failure one had been funding the successful one's life for 6 years. I did what I do best, math. $47,000 in loans I didn't authorize. Thousands more in damaged credit. A scholarship my niece got through lies about my education. Tax benefits claimed on caregiving I did for free. Every sacrifice I'd made had been used against me. Every kindness had been exploited, and now they wanted me to stay quiet. For the family, I could wait for Grandma's party, let her handle the exposure. But something in me needed them to know now. Not everything. Just enough. I needed them to understand that I wasn't the person they thought I was. One line. That's all it would take. 11:23 at night. My apartment was dark except for the glow of my phone. I opened Family Core for the first time since reading the messages. The latest discussion was about centerpieces, my mother asking if they should do roses or peonies, debating colors, fonts for place cards. They were picking flowers while their fraud scheme sat exposed on my laptop. I typed slowly, deliberately, deleted once, typed again. 12 words. So the useless one is the one carrying it all. Interesting math. My thumb hovered over send. For 36 years I'd been the quiet one, the invisible one, the one who absorbed every insult, every slight, every exploitation without complaint. This was the first time I'd ever pushed back. I pressed send, then immediately, leave group, 11:24. I was out. The bomb was dropped, my phone exploded, 11:24. Emily calling, declined. 11:24. Emily calling again, declined. 11:25. Mother calling, declined. 11:25. Text from Emily, all caps. Jessica? 11:26. Text from Mother. Honey, please pick up. 11:26. Derek calling, declined. 11:27. Text from Aunt Patricia. What the hell is going on? The notifications kept coming. I watched them pile up without responding. Meanwhile, screenshots poured in from Nathan. My cousin had been forwarding me chat activity since we'd connected through Howard's office. He'd been frozen out of the family 2 years ago when he'd refused to sign documents for Derek. Now he was watching the chaos unfold in real time. The Family Core chat was imploding. Emily. Oh my God, she knows Derek. Everyone calm down. She doesn't have proof of anything. Mother. She said carrying it all. What does that mean? Emily. It means she knows about the money Aunt Patricia. Who added her to this chat? Emily. It was an accident, I swear, Derek. Everyone stop panicking. We can fix this. They thought they could fix it. They had no idea how broken things already were. The texts kept flooding my phone. Mother, whatever you think you read, it's not what it looks like. We were just venting. Every family does this. Emily. Jess. Please, I can explain everything. The loans were temporary. We're going to pay everything back. Derek. Jessica, let's talk like adults. There's no need to blow this out of proportion. Aunt Patricia. This is private family business. Don't make it something it's not. 4 different people, 4 variations of the same message. It's not that bad. And even if it is, it's your fault for being upset. Then Aunt Patricia made a mistake. A text came through that clearly wasn't meant for me. Just tell her the loans are paid. She doesn't need to know about the scholarship thing or the tax stuff. If she brings up anything else, deny, deny, deny. 3 seconds later. Ignore that. Wrong person. She'd meant to send her cover-up strategy to my mother or Emily. Instead, she'd sent it to me. Even in their panic, they couldn't stop making mistakes. One more text from my mother. Jessica, I'm begging you, don't say anything to Grandma. She's fragile. This could literally cause another heart episode. The woman who'd written at least Jessica's useful for something was now begging me to protect her. The irony was perfect. They'd spent 6 years calling me a failure. Now their entire stability depended on my silence. The useless one suddenly had all the power. I read every text, listened to no voicemails, responded to no one. Silence, my weapon, my shield. By midnight, the count was staggering. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, 0 responses from Jessica. They were used to me accommodating, explaining, apologizing for things that weren't my fault. This silence was something new, something they didn't know how to handle. For 6 years, they'd controlled the narrative. I was the failure, the invisible one, the one who didn't matter. 1 sentence, 12 words. And suddenly they were scrambling. Not because I'd threatened them. Not because I'd screamed or cried or begged for explanations. Just because I'd shown them that I knew. Knowledge is power. Silence is control. I turned off my phone. First time in years I'd silenced it completely. The notifications disappeared. The chaos became someone else's problem. I lay down in the dark. I should have felt anxious, scared, something. Instead, I felt calm. Clearer than I'd felt in years. The invisible woman had finally made herself seen. And I slept better than I had in months. I woke at 7, turned my phone back on. The notifications flooded in immediately. 89 texts, 52 missed calls. I ignored them all. One message stood out. From Nathan. I saw what you did. About time, I've been waiting for someone to stand up to them. Coffee tomorrow? I have information you might want. Another message. From Howard Chen. Ms. Monroe, your grandmother asked me to inform you. She's aware of last night's developments. She approves. The plan remains unchanged. See you at the party. She approves. Grandma knew I'd sent the message, and she was proud. 9 days until the party. 9 days until 65 people watched my family's perfect image shatter. They thought last night was the confrontation. They thought my one sentence was the extent of my ammunition. They had no idea. The message wasn't a bomb. It was just the fuse. The explosion was coming, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. 9 days before Grandma's party. A coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory. I arrived first. Chose a corner booth with a clear view of the door. Old habit from years of client meetings. Always know who's coming. Always have an exit. Nathan walked in at exactly 10. My cousin. Mid-30s. Tired eyes that told a story before he said a word. He looked like someone who'd been carrying a secret too long and was finally ready to set it down. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. The family had made sure of that. Thanks for meeting me. He slid into the booth across from me. I wasn't sure you'd come. Why wouldn't I? Because they probably told you I was unstable. Jealous. Going through something. That's exactly what they told me. Nathan laughed, but there was no humor in it. The family playbook. Isolate anyone who asks questions. He ordered black coffee. I already had mine, untouched, cooling between my hands. 2 years ago, Nathan began, I was in the family core chat. Original member. Saw all the early messages about you. The nicknames, the mockery. I didn't participate much, but I didn't stop it either. I'm not proud of that. I nodded, waited for him to continue. Then Derek approached me privately. Said he needed my signature on some documents. Just a formality. Family helping family. He had that smile, you know the one. Like he was doing me a favor by letting me be involved. I know the smile. I asked to see the documents first. wanted to understand what I was signing. Derek got defensive. "Don't you trust us?" Made it sound like I was being paranoid. Difficult. "What did you do?" I insisted. Said I wouldn't sign anything I hadn't read. Derek backed off. Said he'd figure out another solution. Nathan's jaw tightened. 3 days later, I was removed from the chat. My mother, your Aunt Patricia, stopped returning my calls. Emily told everyone I was having mental health issues and needed space. Within a month, I was a ghost. Uninvited from Thanksgiving, forgotten at Christmas. All because I asked to read a document before signing it. The pattern was so clear now. Anyone who questioned the system got eliminated. "I always suspected they found someone else," Nathan continued. "Someone who wouldn't ask questions. I just never knew it was you. I never signed anything either. They just took my name." "Of course they did." His expression hardened. "You were perfect, quiet, trusting, too busy being invisible to notice." He wasn't being cruel, he was stating facts, and he was right. Nathan slid his phone across the table. "I've been collecting screenshots since they kicked me out. Anything I could get from mutual friends, overheard conversations, slips. After your message last night, the chat exploded. They're terrified." I looked at the screen. Messages from Family Core, forwarded from someone still inside. Derek. "We need to get to her before the party. Offer her money. Whatever it takes. Emily. What if she's already told Grandma?" "Mother. She hasn't. Grandma would have called me by now. Aunt Patricia. We need a unified story. Everyone say the same thing. They were building a defense, and they were about to deploy it. The next 6 days felt like a siege. My family circled my life like wolves, each trying a different approach. They thought if they kept pushing, I'd eventually break. Apologize. Return to my place at the edge of the family photo. They didn't know that every attempt just added to my file. Day 1. Emily's tactic was gifts. A bouquet of roses delivered to my apartment. The card read, "I'm sorry, let's talk." Signed with her initial and a heart. A gift basket from an expensive boutique arrived that afternoon. "Thinking of you, sis." A handwritten card came in the evening mail. "Whatever I did, I'm sorry. You're my sister, and I love you. I donated the roses to the hospital where I volunteered. The gift basket went to a women's shelter. The card I kept. Evidence of attempted manipulation. Nice handwriting, though." Day 2. Aunt Patricia tried guilt. My phone rang at 8 in the morning. I answered, curious what angle she'd take. "Jessica, this is ridiculous. You're tearing the family apart." "I'm tearing the family apart?" "You know what I mean. We've always been close." "We've never been close, Aunt Patricia. I was just too polite to point that out. You've changed. You're not the Jessica I know. You never knew me. That's the whole point." I hung up before she could respond. Day 3. Mother left a voicemail. I didn't answer her calls, but I listened to the message. Recorded it, actually. Added it to the evidence folder. "Jessica, honey, I'm your mother. Whatever you think happened, we can work through this. I know I haven't been perfect, but I've always loved you. Both my girls. Equally. Please don't do anything drastic. For the family. For Grandma." A long pause. "Call me back. Please. Equally." She loved us equally. The chat said otherwise. The numbers said otherwise. But at least she was consistent. Still lying, even when begging. Day 5. 5 days before the party. I returned from grocery shopping to find Derek waiting in the parking lot of my apartment building. Leaning against his BMW, arms crossed, trying to look casual, like ambushing someone was perfectly normal behavior. My brother-in-law. The man who'd forged my signature on $47,000 worth of loans. The architect of my family's fraud. "We need to talk, Jessica. Just you and me." I didn't invite him up. Instead, I suggested we walk. Public space, daylight, witnesses. We ended up at a small park near my building. Derek kept his voice measured, his expression carefully friendly. "Look, I know you're upset. You have every right to be. Things got out of hand. The loans, the paperwork. It started small. Then it snowballed. But here's the thing, no one got hurt. Not really. My credit score dropped 180 points. I couldn't buy a home. I've been paying interest on debt I didn't know I had. No one got hurt? Derek shifted his approach. The friendly mask adjusted slightly. Okay, I hear you. That's why I want to make this right. What if I paid off the loans, all of them, within 6 months? And in return you forget about the chat, forget about the documents. We go back to being family. You want to buy my silence. I want to fix this. There's a difference. I let the silence stretch, watched him squirm. And the scholarship fraud? The tax claims? Derek's jaw tightened. Those are more complicated. Complicated how? There could be legal consequences. For Emily, for your mother. There could be legal consequences for you, Derek. Forgery, identity theft, that's prison time. The friendly mask slipped. Derek stepped closer. His voice dropped to something cold. Let me be very clear, Jessica. You don't want to go down this road. Is that a threat? It's reality. You think you have evidence? We have lawyers. We have resources. We have family connections. What do you have? A spreadsheet and some screenshots? Actually, I have a lot more than that. He paused. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. What does that mean? It means you should be more careful about who you underestimate. I walked away. He called after me. I didn't turn around. Let him wonder. Let him worry. In 5 days, he'd find out exactly what I had. Day 7, 3 days before the party. Evening. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, holding a casserole dish, the universal symbol of maternal guilt. I made your favorite, chicken and rice. Can I come in? I opened the door. She set down the casserole, looked around the apartment with that familiar expression. Evaluating. Finding it wanting. It's nice here. Cozy. You've said that before. Cozy is code for small. Jessica, please. I'm trying. The tears began. On cue or genuine, I couldn't tell anymore. I've been thinking a lot about where things went wrong. I wasn't a perfect mother. I know that. After your father left, I was just trying to survive. Emily needed so much attention. And you were always so independent. So capable. I thought I was giving you space. I didn't realize I was pushing you away. I let her talk. The justifications flowed like water. The loans, the credit things. I didn't understand all of it. Derek handled the details. I just knew we needed help, and you had good credit, good standing. I told myself we'd pay it back, that you'd never notice, that it was just borrowing. You borrowed my identity, Mom, without asking. For 6 years. I know. The silence stretched between us. Then she got to the real reason for her visit. Grandma's party is in 3 days. I know. Can we please just get through it? As a family? Whatever you're planning, can it wait until after? I'm not planning anything. Jessica, please. She's 75. Her heart is stronger than you think. Grandma's tougher than any of us. My mother's eyes searched my face for something she could use. Some weakness, some crack. Let me ask you something, Mom. In 6 years, did you ever once think about telling me? She hesitated. We talked about it a few times. And? Derek said it would be better if you didn't know. Less complicated. Derek, your son-in-law made decisions about my life and you let him. He was handling the finances, he said. He said a lot of things, Mom. Most of them were lies. She stood, gathered her purse. The casserole sat forgotten on my counter. I'm sorry, Jessica. I truly am. I believe you're sorry you got caught. I'm not sure you're sorry for what you did. That's not fair. Neither were the last 6 years. The door closed behind her. The final days passed quickly. I met with Howard Chen to confirm the legal documentation was ready. Rachel Chen finalized the formal letters that would go out after the party. Nathan agreed to attend, positioned to corroborate if needed. And Grandma. Grandma was in constant contact through Howard, orchestrating everything. I finalized my evidence package. Complete timeline of fraud spanning 6 years. Credit reports showing the damage. Chat screenshots proving knowledge and intent. Forged documents with signature analysis. The power of attorney proving systematic identity theft. Everything organized, color-coded, backed up in 3 locations. The accountant in me was satisfied. The daughter in me was still processing. 2 days before the party, my phone rang. The caller ID made me smile. Grandma Margaret, Jessica, honey. How are you holding up? I'm okay, Grandma, ready. I know you are. I've always known you were the strong one. A pause. I could hear her breathing. Steady, calm. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. About the investigation. I wanted to protect you. You did protect me, Grandma. You're the only one who ever has. She was quiet for a moment. The party starts at 4. I'll make my speech around 7 after dinner. When I call you forward, all you need to do is stand beside me and answer my questions honestly. Can you do that? Yes. One more thing. Whatever happens, whatever they say, don't let them make you feel small. You've been small long enough. I won't, Grandma. That's my girl. The night before the party, I sat in my apartment with nothing left to prepare. Everything ready. Nothing to do but wait. Tomorrow, 65 people would watch my family's perfect image shatter. Some would be shocked. Some would be relieved. Some would blame me for making drama. I didn't care anymore. For 36 years, I'd worried about making people comfortable, making myself small so others could feel big. Tomorrow, I was taking up space. My space. The space they'd stolen from me. The final texts arrived throughout the evening. Emily. Jess, one more chance, please, I'm begging you. A heart emoji at the end. Derek, think carefully about what you're doing. Actions have consequences. Mother, I love you, honey. Whatever happens tomorrow, remember that. Aunt Patricia, don't be selfish, Jessica. Think about Grandma. I didn't respond to any of them. Silence was still my answer. Let them spend one more night wondering. Morning of the party. I woke early. Clear sky outside, perfect weather. The universe apparently had a sense of irony. Beautiful day for a reckoning. I showered, dressed carefully. Navy blue dress. Simple, understated, professional. Pearl earrings that Grandma had given me years ago. Not too flashy, not trying to compete with Emily's Instagram aesthetic. Just me. Finally being me. My phone buzzed as I was getting ready to leave. Nathan, I'm already here. The vultures are circling. Emily looks like she didn't sleep. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Good. Let her wonder. Let them all wonder. I drove to Grandma's house. The familiar route felt different today. Charged with something I couldn't name, cars already lined the street, catering vans, flower delivery trucks, a photographer's equipment being unloaded. Emily had insisted on documenting everything, perfect family moments for her perfect Instagram feed. She was about to document something very different. I parked, took a breath, checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, steady eyes, calm face, 65 guests, 7 family members who'd stolen from me, 1 grandmother who'd seen everything, and 1 invisible woman about to step into the light. You've got this, I told myself. You've been preparing for this moment your whole life. I opened the car door. Time to stop being invisible. Grandma Margaret's house had been transformed. White tents billowed in the backyard, anchored between the old oak trees that had stood there for decades. String lights wove through the branches like captured stars. A string quartet played Vivaldi near the rose garden, their music floating across the manicured lawn. 65 guests. Caterers in crisp black uniforms. A photographer circling the crowd like a well-dressed shark, capturing moments that would later be curated for social media. Emily had planned every detail, her Instagram aesthetic brought to life. Elegant, expensive, perfect, the perfect stage for a perfect lie. I walked through the garden gate at 4:07, fashionably late, intentionally so. I wanted them to see me arrive. Wanted them to have time to notice before they could prepare their faces. Navy blue dress, simple cut, pearl earrings from Grandma. Nothing flashy, nothing competing with Emily's inevitable designer showcase. I'd considered wearing red, making a statement, but that wasn't me. I didn't need to announce myself with color. I just needed to be present. The family spotted me within seconds. My mother froze mid-conversation with a neighbor, her champagne glass suspended in the air. Emily's own glass stopped halfway to her lips, her smile calcifying into something rigid. Derek took an involuntary step backward, his hand moving to his phone like a reflex. Aunt Patricia whispered something urgent to her husband. For 3 seconds, the masks slipped. I saw fear, real fear. Then the performance resumed. My mother approached first, arms outstretched, smile too bright, voice pitched higher than natural. "Jessica, honey, you made it." Air kisses that didn't touch skin, the embrace that held nothing. "You look nice, very understated." Understated. Code for not as pretty as Emily. Some things never change. "Thanks, Mom." "You look stressed." Her smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, steering me toward the drink station with practiced hostess movements. I found my seat eventually. Elegant place cards marked each table, calligraphy perfect, cream cardstock with gold edges. Emily's touch, no doubt. Head table. Grandma's place of honor, flanked by Mother, Emily, Derek, Aunt Patricia. Second table, close family friends, important neighbors. People whose opinions mattered for social standing. Third table, extended relatives, cousins who'd traveled from out of state. I finally found my name. Table 7, back corner. Next to the catering station where servers would be constantly passing with trays and dirty dishes. My table mates told their own story. Great Uncle Harold, 92 years old, mostly deaf. Kind, but unlikely to engage in conversation. Marjorie, a cousin's ex-wife who'd apparently come for closure on something. No one quite understood why she was invited. Brian, a neighbor's adult son who lived in his parents' basement. No one quite remembered adding him to the list. 2 empty chairs, no-shows who'd had the good sense to skip. The reject table, the place where inconvenient people were stored out of sight. I'd been assigned to sit with strangers and ghosts. Meanwhile, at the head table, Emily held court, adjusting Grandma's napkin with performative care. Derek making charming small talk with the photographer, probably negotiating which angles to capture. Mother accepting compliments about her beautiful family from guests who didn't know any better. From where I sat, I had a perfect view of the performance. The loving daughter, the attentive son-in-law, the proud mother. None of them looked toward table 7. Not once. Nathan found me 15 minutes into the party. He slid into one of the empty chairs at my table, coffee in hand, expression carefully neutral. Impressive seating arrangement. Very subtle. Did you expect anything different? No. But it still stings, doesn't it? It used to. Now it's just evidence. Nathan glanced toward the head table where Derek was checking his phone again. 3rd time in 10 minutes. He's nervous, keeps looking at the exits. Good. Let him sweat. What about you? Nathan studied my face. You ready? I've been ready for 36 years. I just didn't know it. The photographer announced family photos before dinner. Everyone gather by the rose garden. Guests parted accommodatingly. The Monroe family assembled in the designated spot, arranging themselves with the ease of people who'd posed together hundreds of times. Mother, Emily, Derek. The children looking scrubbed and uncomfortable in formal clothes. Aunt Patricia and her husband. I started walking toward the group. Emily's hand shot up before I got close. Oh, this is just immediate family first. We'll do extended family after. Immediate family. I'm her sister. My mother offered her apologetic smile. The one that meant nothing. Honey, you know what she means. Just the core group first. Core. The same word as their secret chat. Family core. I stepped back. Smiled. Let them have their moment. From outside the frame, I watched them arrange themselves. Emily directing everyone like a film director. Derek, stand closer. Mom, chin up. Kids, smile bigger. Click, click, click. Perfect family, perfect smiles, perfect lies preserved in pixels. The photographer called for shots with Grandma. Margaret walked slowly but steadily from her chair, assisted by a silver-haired man I recognized, Howard Chen, playing the role of family friend rather than legal counsel. Grandma positioned herself center frame, then stopped. "Where's Jessica?" Emily's smile tightened. "Oh, we were going to do extended family next." Grandma's voice cut through the excuse like a blade. "Jessica is not extended family. She's my granddaughter. Get her." My mother waved me over, her tight smile not reaching her eyes. I walked into the frame. Grandma took my hand, pulled me close to her side. "Right here, next to me." Emily's jaw tightened visibly. Derek's eye twitched. Mother's smile became something closer to a grimace. For the first time in any family photo I could remember, I was in the center. Grandma squeezed my hand, a silent message passing between us. "This is just the beginning." Click. That photo would be the last one where we all pretended to be a family. Cocktail hour unfolded with its own particular cruelties. I moved through the party slowly, accepting a glass of white wine I didn't intend to drink, greeting distant relatives who seemed surprised I'd shown up. Fragments of whispered conversations reached my ears. My mother to a neighbor, voice carrying just enough to be overheard. "Jessica? Oh, she's doing fine. Keeping busy with her little freelance thing." Emily to a woman from her church, perfecting the concerned sister routine. "My sister's very independent, lives alone, works from home. She prefers it that way." Aunt Patricia to someone's husband, shaking her head with false sympathy. "Some people just aren't built for family life, you know. Jessica's always been different." The whisper campaign in action, shaping perceptions before anyone could form their own. Well-meaning guests approached me throughout the hour. "So what do you do, dear?" As if we hadn't met at a dozen previous gatherings. "Are you seeing anyone special?" The question that defined a woman's worth in their eyes. "Your sister's done so well for herself. You must be proud," as if Emily's success diminished my own. "I understand you help out with your grandmother. That's so sweet, reducing years of genuine caregiving to something quaint and pitiful." Each question was a tiny cut, assumptions wrapped in politeness. One guest, Mrs. Patterson from the church my mother attended, approached with particular enthusiasm. "Your mother was just telling me you're between jobs. How brave to keep trying. I'm not between jobs. I'm a freelance accountant. I have a full client list." Mrs. Patterson blinked, confused. "Oh," your mother said. "My mother says a lot of things." The woman looked uncomfortable. I'd broken the script. Derek found me near the bar. His smile was fixed firmly in place for anyone watching, but his voice was low and cold. "You're being very calm. It's making people nervous." "Which people? The ones who matter." I didn't realize calm was threatening. It is when someone should be angry. "Who said I'm not angry?" His smile faltered. "Jessica." "Enjoy the party, Derek. I hear the shrimp cocktail is excellent." I walked away before he could respond. Found a quiet corner near the garden where I could observe without being cornered. Howard Chen passed by without stopping. To any observer, he was simply an elderly gentleman getting some air. But his murmur was clear. "Mrs. Margaret will speak after dinner. Around 7. Be ready." He was gone before anyone noticed. 2 hours. 2 hours of smiling through the humiliation. I could do 2 hours. I'd done 36 years. Dinner ended at 6:45. Plates cleared. Coffee served. The energy in the tent shifted as guests settled into post-meal contentment. Derek stood, tapped his glass with a spoon. The chime silenced conversations. If I could have everyone's attention. My beautiful wife would like to say a few words about her grandmother. Emily rose from her seat like an actress taking the stage. Champagne flute in hand, radiant smile perfectly calibrated. The lighting was ideal, of course it was. She'd planned this moment. Her phone was mounted on a small tripod nearby, probably streaming to Instagram Live. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate the most important woman in my life." The performance lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes of fabrication delivered with the polish of someone who'd spent years crafting her public image. Growing up, Grandma Margaret was my rock, my safe place. She taught me what it means to be a strong woman, a devoted wife, a loving mother. I thought about the chat messages. Emily visited Grandma maybe 4 times a year, usually for money or photo opportunities. I've tried to honor her example in everything I do, putting family first, always. Family first. The woman who'd created a chat specifically to exclude her sister. When I think about who I am today, I see her influence in every choice I've made. Choices like forging my signature, stealing my credit, lying on federal applications. The specific lies kept coming. I remember spending every Sunday at her house, helping with the garden. I spent every Sunday at Grandma's house. Emily showed up for holidays and birthdays. She calls me for advice now, can you believe it? Her little Emily, all grown up. Grandma had Howard Chen for advice. She called me for everything else. I've been so blessed to be the one she leans on in her golden years. I'd driven every medical appointment for the last 5 years. Emily had sent flowers once. Family is everything to me. Everything. Her family didn't include me. 6 years of messages proved that. The audience was enchanted, dabbing eyes, murmured appreciation. What a devoted granddaughter. Emily's such a blessing to that family. My mother beamed with pride from the head table. Derek recorded everything on his phone. Aunt Patricia nodded along like she was in church. The room was enchanted. The performance was flawless. But I saw what they couldn't. Grandma Margaret's face. Polite smile fixed in place. But her eyes were sharp, watchful, cold. Howard Chen standing near the back exit, positioned for quick access to the front. Nathan catching my eye from across the room, his expression carefully neutral. Emily finished to applause. Standing ovation from the head table. She soaked it in, her moment, her narrative. She had no idea it was about to be her last. The handoff came smoothly. And now, Emily said, I believe Grandma has something she'd like to say. She expected a tearful thank you, a passing of the torch from one generation to the next. Grandma rose slowly. Howard moved to assist her, helping her walk to where Emily stood with the microphone. Thank you, Emily. Grandma's voice was steady, measured. That was quite a speech. A pause. The room waited for the grateful response. I also have some things to share, about family, about truth. Emily's smile flickered, just for a moment, a crack in the facade. But I saw it, fear, creeping in at the edges. The air in the tent changed, like the moment before a thunderstorm when the pressure drops and everything goes still. Grandma didn't sit back down after taking the microphone. Howard Chen moved closer to the front, positioning himself within easy reach. Nathan shifted his position, now standing near the head table. Something was wrong. The guilty parties felt it even if they couldn't name it. Emily tried to catch Derek's eye, but he was staring at Grandma with growing unease. Mother's hand trembled against her coffee cup. Aunt Patricia whispered urgently to her husband. They sensed it. Something they couldn't control, something that wasn't in the script. I stood. Left table 7 for the last time. Moved toward the front of the tent, slowly, casually. Found a spot with a clear view of everyone. The head table, the guests, the exits. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't in the back corner waiting to be forgotten. Whatever happened next, I would see it all. Grandma cleared her throat. 75 years. That's a lot of living. A lot of watching. Her voice carried across the silent tent. You learn things when you've been around that long. You see patterns. You learn who shows up, and who just talks about showing up. Dead silence. No one moved. Tonight I want to talk about showing up, about truth, and about family. Her eyes swept the room slowly, taking in every face. Then they landed on me. A small nod, almost imperceptible. Our signal. But first, I'd like to ask my granddaughter Jessica to join me. 65 faces turned to look at me. The invisible woman, suddenly visible. My legs felt numb, but they moved. One step, then another, past table 7 with its empty chairs and forgotten guests. past the whispers starting to ripple through the crowd, past the curious stares of people who'd barely noticed me an hour ago, past Aunt Patricia, whose face had gone gray, past Mother, who looked like she might faint, past Emily, whose perfect composure was cracking like cheap paint, past Derek, who was already calculating his next move, his eyes darting toward exits. I walked through the center of that party like I belonged there. Because I did. I always had. Grandma took my hand when I reached her, held it up for everyone to see. This is my granddaughter, my real family. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Confusion, curiosity. Emily's voice cut through, sharp with desperation. Grandma, what? Sit down, Emily. I'm not finished. Grandma's grip was steady. Mine was shaking. 65 people waited. My mother, my sister, everyone who'd called me a failure. I didn't know exactly what Grandma was about to say, but I knew one thing. After tonight, nothing would ever be the same. Grandma took a breath, looked at the crowd. Now, she said, let me tell you about the last 6 years. Grandma's hand held mine like an anchor. 65 faces stared at us, confusion and curiosity mixing in the silence. Let me tell you about the last 6 years, she said. I felt Emily shift behind me, heard Derek's sharp intake of breath, but Grandma's voice was steady. She'd been waiting for this moment longer than anyone knew. She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a small leather notebook. Worn at the edges. Familiar to anyone who'd spent time with her over the years. Some of you know I keep a journal. I write everything down. Who visits, who calls, who actually shows up when it matters. I've kept this record for over a decade. Let me share some entries. She opened to a marked page. March 15th, 2022. Cardiology appointment. Jessica drove me, waited 3 hours, brought me soup after. She flipped the page. March 15th, 2022. Emily, no call, no text. The silence in the tent was absolute. June 8th, 2023. I fell in the bathroom. Called Jessica at 2 a.m. She was here in 20 minutes, stayed until dawn. Another page. June 8th, 2023. Told Diane the next day. She said, thank God Jessica was available. Grandma looked up from the notebook. Her eyes found mine briefly before sweeping across the crowd. Available. Like my granddaughter was just waiting around with nothing better to do. She continued reading. Faster now. Building momentum. Thanksgiving, 2021. Jessica cooked the turkey. Emily arrived for photos, left before dishes. Christmas, 2022. Jessica wrapped all the gifts. Emily posted them on Instagram. Her caption said, I love giving, my 74th birthday. Jessica organized everything. Emily's speech thanked everyone except her sister. The notebook closed with a soft sound that seemed to echo. Do you see the pattern? Because I do. Emily stood abruptly from the head table. Grandma, I don't understand what this has to do with... Sit. Down. Emily. The words cracked through the air like a whip. Several guests gasped. Grandma had never spoken to Emily like that, not in public, not ever. Emily sat, her perfect composure crumbling. This is about who shows up, and who takes credit, but more importantly... Grandma paused. Let the silence build. This is about who steals. She gestured toward Howard Chen, who stepped forward with his briefcase. Most of you know Howard. He's been my attorney for 30 years. 4 months ago, I asked him to review my estate documents. Standard planning for someone my age. What he found was anything but standard. Howard opened his briefcase with the practiced calm of someone who'd delivered difficult news many times before. During the review, I discovered several irregularities connected to one name. He looked at me. Your name, Ms. Monroe. He pulled out a thick folder. With Mrs. Margaret's permission, I'm going to share what we found. These are public records. Anyone could access them. But no one thought to look, until now. The first document emerged. Personal loan, First National Bank, 2019, $28,000. Applicant, Jessica Monroe. Purpose, Debt consolidation. Funds deposited to account ending 7743. Howard looked directly at Derek. That's your business account, Mr. Monroe. Derek's face drained of color. I can explain. Howard raised a hand. I'm sure you can, but not yet. The second document. Home Improvement Loan, 2021, $19,000. Applicant, Jessica Monroe. Property address, 1422 Maple Drive. His eyes moved to my mother. That's your home, Mrs. Monroe. My mother's voice came out strangled. The kitchen. Derek said it was a family loan that Jessica knew nothing about. Howard held up another document. His voice remained calm, but the words landed like stones. And then there's this. A power of attorney, dated 2020. Granting Derek Monroe full authority to conduct financial transactions on behalf of Jessica Monroe. He looked at me. The room looked at me. Jessica, did you sign this document? I found my voice. No, I've never seen it before. That's because it's a forgery. The signature doesn't match any verified sample we have on file. Derek stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to. Mr. Monroe, Howard's voice cut through the protest. I'd suggest you sit down. The evidence is quite comprehensive. Grandma took over again, her voice steady but sharp. 2022 tax filing. Diane Monroe claimed a dependent care credit, listed Jessica Monroe as primary caregiver for Margaret Monroe. Tax benefit received, $4,200. She looked at my mother. Jessica did care for me, every week, for years. But she was never paid, never asked to be listed, never received a penny of that credit. My mother's voice was small. It was just paperwork. Paperwork is how fraud works, Diane. The next document. 2023, scholarship application for Madison Monroe, first-generation college student scholarship, $15,000. The application states that no parent or close relative holds a 4-year degree. Howard looked at me again. Ms. Monroe, what is your educational background? Bachelor's degree in accounting, University of Connecticut, graduated with honors. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Shocked faces. Neighbors who'd known this family for decades, realizing they'd known nothing at all. This application contains a material falsehood. The scholarship board has been notified. Howard summarized the damage, his voice carrying across the silent tent. Personal loan, $28,000. Home improvement, $19,000. Tax fraud, $4,200. Scholarship fraud, $15,000. Total financial impact to Jessica Monroe, over $66,000. Plus, immeasurable damage to her credit, her reputation, and her trust. The number hung in the air. 6 years of crimes, one victim who never knew. Grandma's voice dropped, but somehow became more powerful. But the money isn't the worst part. She reached into her other pocket, pulled out printed pages. 6 years ago, my daughter, my granddaughter, and my sister-in-law created a group chat. They called it Family Core. Jessica wasn't in it. I wasn't in it. They used that chat to plan how to exploit her, and to mock her for being useless while they did it. She held up the pages. I have screenshots, 1,247 messages. Emily's voice cracked. Grandma, please. Message from Emily, 2019. Failure-free zone. Love it. A gasp from somewhere in the crowd. Message from Diane, 2021. Jessica won't notice. She doesn't even check her credit score. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. Message from Patricia, 2022. The failure one is finally useful for something. Aunt Patricia's husband turned to stare at her. She wouldn't meet his eyes. The room watched my family the way you watch a car accident. Horrified, unable to look away. Grandma's voice softened, but the words cut deeper for it. They called her the failure for 6 years, while she took care of me, while they stole her identity, while she sacrificed everything for a family that treated her like a resource instead of a person. She looked out at the crowd. Tell me, Who are the real failures here? Grandma turned to face me directly, took both my hands in hers. Jessica, sweetheart, I need to ask you something. In front of everyone. The room held its breath. Not because I don't know the answer, but because they need to hear it. She asked the questions one by one, each word deliberate, each pause weighted with meaning. Did you know about the personal loan? No. Did you sign any of these documents? No. Did you give anyone permission to use your name, your credit, your identity? Never. Were you ever told about the tax claims, the scholarship application, the power of attorney? No. I found out 3 weeks ago, when Emily accidentally added me to the group chat. Grandma nodded slowly. 3 weeks ago, by accident. 6 years of theft. And it only came out because someone pressed the wrong button. She turned back to the crowd. My granddaughter didn't know. She was too busy taking care of me to notice she was being robbed. And when she found out, she didn't scream, didn't threaten, didn't make a scene. Her voice swelled with something that sounded like pride. She documented everything, like the professional she is, the professional they called a failure. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. First time I'd cried since this began. Not from sadness, from release. For 36 years, I'd wondered if I was imagining things, if I was too sensitive, if the exclusion was all in my head. Now 65 people knew the truth. I wasn't crazy. I was right. Emily stood again, tears streaming, mascara running. Grandma, please. You don't understand. We were struggling. Derek's business. Struggling. We almost lost the house. Mom needed help with bills. We didn't have a choice. You had a choice. You could have asked Jessica. You could have been honest. She would have said no. The admission hung in the air. The truth, finally spoken. You don't know that. You never asked. Grandma's voice was ice. You never meant to get caught. That's different from being sorry. Derek tried next, stepping forward with his salesman's confidence, though it was cracking at the edges. Mrs. Margaret, this has gone far enough. These are private family matters. Private? You committed fraud, Derek. That's not private. That's criminal. No one's pressing charges. We can work this out. Howard stepped forward. Actually, whether charges are pressed depends entirely on what happens next. Derek's facade crumbled. What does that mean? It means you might want to stop talking and start listening. My mother hadn't spoken since the tax fraud was revealed. She sat at the head table staring at nothing. When she finally looked at me, really looked at me, something in her face collapsed. I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd find out. I didn't think about you at all. That's the truth. The admission landed like a bomb. The most honest thing she'd said in years. I was so focused on Emily, on what she needed, on keeping up appearances. You were always so capable, so independent. I told myself you didn't need me. I needed you, Mom. I needed you to be my mother, not just Emily's. She sobbed, no words left. Nothing that could fix what she'd broken. Movement near the edge of the tent, Aunt Patricia quietly gathering her purse. Moving toward the exit. Patricia. Grandma's voice stopped her cold. Sit. Down. Frozen mid-escape. You're not leaving until this is finished. You facilitated the tax fraud. You mocked Jessica more than anyone in that chat. Some people aren't built for family life. Do you remember saying that? Patricia's husband turned to her. What is she talking about? The woman who'd whispered poison about me for 6 years had nothing to say. Looks like there's another conversation happening later tonight. Grandma took a breath, drew herself up to her full height. Now, here's what's going to happen. The room snapped to attention. First, all financial support I've been providing to Diane, Emily, and Patricia is suspended immediately. Emily started to protest. Grandma. Until every dollar borrowed in Jessica's name is repaid. To Jessica. With interest. Second, Derek will surrender the forged power of attorney and sign an affidavit admitting to the forgery. Failure to comply will result in the documents being forwarded to the state bar and the police. Derek went white. Third, the scholarship board has already been contacted. They're conducting their own investigation. Madison will likely need to return the funds. That's a consequence of fraud, not my decision. Then, the declaration that changed everything. Fourth, I've updated my estate documents. Emily's head snapped up. Jessica is now executor of my will. She will oversee the distribution of my assets. Gasps from the family, shock from the crowd. This isn't a reward for being victimized. It's recognition of who she is. For 10 years, Jessica has cared for me without asking for anything. She's the only person in this family I trust with my legacy. Grandma turned to me one final time. And finally, on behalf of this family, I apologize. You deserved better, sweetheart. You always deserved better. I'm sorry I didn't act sooner. I wanted to be sure. And I wanted witnesses. She gestured at the silent crowd. Now everyone knows. The failure was the one holding this family together. No more hiding, no more lies. The tent was silent. 65 people processing what they'd witnessed. Emily sobbed quietly at the head table. Derek stared at nothing, calculating escape routes that no longer existed. Mother looked like she'd aged 10 years in 20 minutes. The perfect family portrait, shattered in the span of a single speech. Grandma squeezed my hand. Is there anything you'd like to say, sweetheart? I looked at the crowd, at my family, at the wreckage of everything I'd once wanted to belong to. I don't have a speech prepared. I'm not like Emily. A few nervous laughs from the crowd. But I want to say one thing. I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to destroy anyone. I just want the truth acknowledged, and my name cleared. I looked at each of them in turn. Emily, Mother, Derek, Patricia. From today forward, my identity is my own. My credit is my own. My life is my own. I wish you all well. I genuinely do. I straightened my spine. But I will never again be your safety net. Your scapegoat, your failure. I'm done carrying weight that isn't mine. Grandma smiled, squeezed my hand one more time. That's my girl, she whispered. I looked at Emily, at my mother, at Derek, all crumbling under the weight of their own choices. For 6 years they'd called me the failure. Now the whole town knew who the real failures were, and I could finally breathe. For 30 seconds after I finished speaking, no one moved. The tent held its breath. 65 people frozen in a tableau of shock and discomfort. Then, like a spell breaking, everything happened at once. Guests began gathering their things, quickly, awkwardly. No one wanted to be the last one at the scene of a family's destruction. Mrs. Patterson from church hurried past without making eye contact, the same woman who'd told me hours ago how brave I was to keep trying. Business associates shook Howard's hand on their way out, carefully avoiding the head table entirely. Neighbors who'd known the Monroe family for decades suddenly became strangers, their polite smiles replaced by the tight expressions of people who'd witnessed something they couldn't unsee. They moved like people fleeing a fire, polite but urgent. No one wanted to be associated with what they'd just witnessed. Within 15 minutes, the tent that had held 65 celebrating guests held only the wreckage. Overturned chairs, abandoned plates. The string quartet had stopped playing long ago, their instruments packed and gone. Emily remained at the head table, still seated. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, frozen in a way I'd never seen from my always performing sister. Derek stood apart from everyone, phone in hand, already calculating. His eyes moved from exit to exit like a cornered animal mapping escape routes. Mother had collapsed in her chair, staring at nothing. The woman who'd spent her life building social standing had just watched it evaporate in 25 minutes. Aunt Patricia was cornered by her husband, their whispered argument growing louder by the minute. His face was a mask of betrayal. Hers was crumbling under questions she couldn't answer. Nathan stood near the garden entrance, watching, Ready. Howard Chen organized documents calmly, as if this were any other Tuesday. And Grandma still held my hand. An hour ago, this tent was full of laughter and champagne and celebration. Emily had wanted to document everything for Instagram. Perfect family moments for her perfect feed. I wondered if she'd post about this. Derek made his move within minutes of the last guest leaving. He approached where Grandma and I stood, straightening his jacket, adopting his reasonable businessman face. The one that had fooled clients and family members for years. Jessica. Can we talk? Privately? I don't think there's anything private left to discuss, Derek. His jaw tightened, but he pressed on. Look, this has been dramatic. I understand emotions are running high. But we're still family. We can work this out without lawyers, without making things worse. Without consequences, you mean, without destroying each other. His voice dropped to something meant to sound reasonable. I made mistakes, I admit that. But prison? Financial ruin? Is that really what you want for Emily? For your mother? I looked at him, really looked at him. The man who'd forged my signature dozens of times, who'd built his failing business on my stolen credit, who'd called me a failure while using my identity to keep himself afloat. What I want is for this to never have happened. But it did. His reasonable mask slipped. Something harder emerged. You think this is over? You think Grandma's little speech changes anything? I have resources, Jessica, connections. I've been in finance for 15 years. I know people. I know how to make things complicated for people who make my life difficult. Is that a threat? It's reality. You've got a spreadsheet and some screenshots. What do you think happens when this goes to court? When lawyers get involved? You're a freelance accountant who lives alone in a tiny apartment. You really want to fight this battle? Actually, I have a lot more than a spreadsheet. Howard Chen appeared beside us, briefcase in hand. Mr. Monroe. A word? Derek turned, startled. He'd been so focused on intimidating me that he'd forgotten we weren't alone. I've prepared a summary of the legal exposure you're facing. Howard's voice was calm, professional, devastating. Identity theft, up to 5 years. Forgery, up to 7 years. Bank fraud, up to 30 years. The sentences can run consecutively. Derek's face went gray. My client, Mrs. Margaret, is prepared to pursue criminal charges if necessary. However, she's also prepared to offer an alternative. Howard opened his briefcase, pulled out a document. This is a settlement agreement. Sign it, and criminal charges will not be pursued. Refuse, and these documents go to the district attorney Monday morning. He read the terms aloud, voice carrying across the nearly empty tent. 1. Full repayment of all loans taken in Jessica Monroe's name, $47,000, plus accrued interest. Timeline, 18 months. 2. Surrender of the forged power of attorney and signed confession of forgery. 3. Written letters to the Scholarship Board and IRS admitting to fraudulent applications. 4. No contact with Jessica Monroe unless initiated by her. 5. Public acknowledgement that Jessica had no knowledge of or participation in any financial misconduct. Derek's voice came out strangled. This will destroy my career, my license. Your career choices are not Mrs. Margaret's concern. The state bar will. The state bar will learn the truth regardless. The question is whether you control that narrative or the DA does. Derek looked at Emily, desperate. Emily, tell them. Emily didn't meet his eyes, wouldn't even look at him. I stepped forward. Derek, you have 48 hours to decide. After that, Howard files the criminal complaint. And just so we're clear, I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this so you never do it to anyone else. Derek stared at me, really seeing me for the first time. The invisible sister, the failure, the one he'd never thought would fight back. Turns out you should have been paying attention all along. He had no response. For once in his life, Derek Monroe had nothing to say. Nathan stepped forward from his position near the garden. I have something to add. He walked to where the family cluster remained. The cousin who'd been frozen out 2 years ago, who'd refused to sign documents and been labeled unstable for it. 2 years ago, Derek approached me with the same scheme, wanted me to sign papers I hadn't read. Family helping family, he said. When I refused, I was removed from the family chat. Uninvited from holidays. My own mother told everyone I was having mental health issues. He looked at Aunt Patricia, who couldn't meet his eyes. I wasn't unstable, I just wouldn't be stolen from. The pattern was clear now, undeniable. Jessica wasn't your first choice. I was. When I said no, you found someone who wouldn't ask questions. Someone you'd already trained to be invisible, to accept whatever you gave her. Nathan turned to me. I'm sorry I didn't warn you. I didn't know they'd actually gone through with it. You couldn't have known. I should have tried harder. Aunt Patricia's husband spoke for the first time. His voice was ice. Patricia, is this true? She couldn't look at him. Mark, you don't understand the context. Did you help them commit fraud against your own nephew? Against Jessica? Silence. I want an answer. Now. Patricia started crying. Not the performative tears Emily had mastered. Real fear. We'll discuss this at home. He turned and walked toward the exit. Patricia scrambled after him, her carefully constructed evening in ruins. Another marriage cracking under the weight of exposed lies. Derek and Emily weren't the only casualties tonight. My mother finally stood, moving slowly, uncertainly, like approaching something that might shatter or something that might strike back. Jessica. I waited. I know I don't deserve to speak to you right now. I know sorry isn't enough. It could never be enough. But I need you to know, I never meant for any of this to happen. Her voice broke on the last words. This was supposed to be temporary, a bridge loan, then another. Then it became normal? Yes. The word was barely a whisper, ashamed, honest for the first time. Do you remember what you said when Marcus cheated on me? She flinched. Marcus. My ex from years ago, a wound I'd thought had healed. Yes. You said maybe if I'd been home more, that it might be my fault. And then you wrote in that chat, at least she doesn't have kids. One less grandchild to worry about. My mother covered her mouth. Horror at her own words, finally heard out loud. That wasn't a bridge loan, Mom. That was my mother celebrating my pain. I don't hate you. I surprised myself by meaning it. I'm not sure I have the energy to hate anyone right now, but I need time. A lot of time. 6 months minimum. No calls, no texts, no showing up at my apartment. She nodded, tears streaming. I understand. Do you? Because understanding seems new for you. Harsh, but true. I deserve that. You deserve a lot more than that. But I'm not the one to give it to you. She turned away, walked toward the garden exit alone. The woman who'd spent her life surrounded by the social status she'd cultivated was leaving with nothing. Emily hadn't moved from the head table, hadn't spoken since her breakdown during Grandma's speech. She sat alone now, Derek across the tent dealing with his own collapse. Mother gone, friends gone. The Instagram audience she'd cultivated for years, unaware that their perfect influencer was sitting in the wreckage of her own creation. For the first time in her life, Emily Monroe had no audience. I walked over. Not out of compassion, out of necessity. Some things needed to be said directly. I stood in front of her. Emily, no response. Just blank staring. Emily, look at me. Slowly, her eyes focused, red-rimmed. Mascara destroyed. The perfect face she showed the world stripped down to something raw and unfamiliar. I'm not going to give you a speech about what you did. Grandma already covered it. Howard has the documents. But I need you to understand one thing. She waited. We're done, not paused. Done. Her lip trembled. Jess, we're sisters. We share DNA. That's not the same thing. Sisters don't steal. Sisters don't mock. Sisters don't bet on each other's failures. You had 6 years to be my sister. You chose to be my exploiter. That choice has consequences. Emily's voice came out as a whisper. I didn't think you'd ever find out. I know. That's what makes it worse. If you thought I'd find out, you wouldn't have done it. which means the only thing stopping you was fear of getting caught. Not love, not loyalty, not conscience, just the belief that I was too stupid to notice. She had no answer. Goodbye, Emily. I walked away. Didn't look back. There was nothing left to see. Grandma waited by the garden gate, Howard beside her, the tent behind us nearly empty now, just catering staff beginning the cleanup. String lights still twinkling absurdly, as if the party was still happening somewhere in a parallel universe where none of this had occurred. Ready to go, sweetheart? I took Grandma's arm. We walked through the garden together, past the rose bushes she'd tended for 40 years, past the spot where Emily had posed for photos hours ago, past the chairs where guests had applauded lies they'd believed. Grandma? Yes, honey. Thank you for believing me, for doing all of this. You would have done the same for me. I would have. But I don't know if I could have done it this well. She laughed softly. The first light sound I'd heard all evening. 75 years of practice, sweetheart. You'll get there. At my car, she squeezed my hand one more time. Go home, rest. This was a lot. What about you? Howard's driving me. We have paperwork to file. Even at your own birthday party, you're working. That's how things get done, honey. That's how things change. I drove home through Connecticut roads, dark and quiet. Radio off, window cracked, cool night air filling the car. 3 hours ago, I'd walked into that party as the invisible sister. The failure, the one assigned to table 7 with the rejects and the ghosts. Now I was driving home as something else entirely. The vindicated one, the survivor, the woman who'd finally stopped being invisible. I thought I'd feel triumphant, victorious. Instead, I felt tired, sad, relieved. It's a strange thing watching your family crumble, even when they deserved it, even when it was necessary, even when every exposed lie was one they'd chosen to tell. Something still breaks inside you. My phone buzzed as I parked at my apartment. Text from Nathan. You okay? I typed back. I will be. His response came quickly. Coffee tomorrow, non-family members only. Despite everything, I smiled. Deal. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, small, quiet, mine. The same apartment they'd mocked for years. Cozy, practical. The failure's tiny kingdom. But tonight it felt different. Not small. Cozy, not lonely, peaceful. Not a consolation prize for an unsuccessful life. A sanctuary I'd built myself. I'd lost something tonight. The illusion of family. The hope that they might change. The fantasy that if I just tried hard enough, loved hard enough, sacrificed enough, they'd finally see me. But I'd gained something too. Myself. Finally, completely myself. I set down my bag, poured a glass of water, stood at the window looking out at the night. 65 guests had witnessed the truth. 4 family members faced consequences they'd never imagined. One grandmother had orchestrated the most dramatic birthday party in Connecticut history, and one invisible woman had finally stepped into the light. They'd called me the failure for 6 years. Now I was the only one still standing, and for the first time in 36 years, that was enough. The fallout came in waves. I watched from a distance, the way you watch a storm you've survived. Safe inside, dry, but still feeling the thunder in your bones. The first wave hit within 48 hours. Howard called Monday morning. His voice carried the calm satisfaction of a lawyer who'd just won without going to court. Derek signed. All terms accepted. Repayment plan in place. Confession of forgery documented. Letters to the scholarship board and IRS drafted and ready to send. He didn't even negotiate? His lawyer advised him to take the deal and be grateful. Apparently, when Howard outlined the criminal exposure, Derek turned white and asked where to sign. The man who'd threatened me with his resources and connections had folded in less than 2 days. Funny how quickly power evaporates when it's built on fraud. The practical impact was significant. $47,000 would be repaid over 18 months, with interest. My credit report would be corrected through a formal dispute process. Fraud alerts placed. The whole bureaucratic machinery of financial restoration set in motion. On paper, I was being made whole. The numbers would eventually balance. But some damage doesn't show up on spreadsheets. The second wave was social media. Someone from the party had talked. Of course they had. 65 people witnessed the most dramatic family implosion in Connecticut suburb history. The only surprise was that it took until Tuesday for the whispers to reach the internet. A local Facebook group lit up first. Anyone hear what happened at the Margaret Monroe party? Comments exploded beneath the post. Fragments of truth mixed with speculation. Someone's cousin had been there. Someone else's neighbor had heard from the caterer. The story was spreading. And Emily was about to learn what it felt like to be talked about behind her back. Emily's Instagram empire had been built on perfection. 80,000 followers watching her curated life unfold in filtered squares. Smoothie bowls and family moments, gratitude captions and sponsored content. The momfluencer dream, monetized and polished. The comments started appearing under her most recent post, a photo of her kitchen, ironically. The same kitchen financed by my stolen credit. Is this the woman who stole her sister's identity? Wait, is this the fraud family I've been hearing about? Unfollowing. Can't support people who treat family like that. Her whole feed is lies. Makes sense now. The comments multiplied like a virus. Every old post suddenly had a new audience. People scrolling back through years of content with fresh eyes, seeing the carefully constructed facade for what it was. I watched the descent from a distance. Day 1. Comments disabled on new posts. Day 3. Account went private. Day 5. Bio changed to taking a break for mental health with a prayer hands emoji. Day 7. Account deactivated entirely. 80,000 followers gone. Not because she lost them, because she ran from them. The woman who'd documented everything suddenly had nothing to show. Nathan forwarded me an email he'd seen circulating. A brand partner's official statement. We're terminating our relationship with Emily Monroe effective immediately. Recent revelations are inconsistent with our company values. 2 other sponsorships pulled within the week. Her Instagram income, which Derek had been counting on to help with their financial problems, evaporated overnight. The perfect family brand was officially worthless. Emily's final public post before deactivation was a screenshot Nathan captured. I'm stepping away from social media to focus on healing and growth. I've made mistakes. I'm working on becoming a better person. Thank you for understanding. A pink heart emoji at the end. Healing and growth. The same words she'd used to mock me in the chat for years. I wondered if she even knew what they meant. Or if it was just another performance, this time for an audience of 1. My mother's collapse was quieter, but no less complete. Word travels fast in Connecticut suburbs. By the end of the first week, everyone knew something, not the full story, just enough to form opinions. And opinions in small towns become verdicts. The book club she'd attended for 12 years sent a polite email. We think it's best if you take a break, Diane. Give things time to settle. The garden committee she'd chaired suddenly found themselves at capacity for new projects. Sunday brunch invitations stopped arriving. Church was the hardest. People who'd hugged her for decades now nodded politely and moved away. No one wanted to sit in her pew. No one wanted to be associated with the family that had been publicly exposed. She'd spent her whole life building social standing. It took 1 week to lose it all. Nathan called me with updates from Aunt Patricia's side of the disaster. My mom said your mother called her crying last night. Patricia? They're still talking? Barely. Patricia's dealing with her own problems. Mark moved into a hotel. The whole family infrastructure was collapsing. Not just reputations, marriages, friendships. Everything built on the shared secret of what they'd done to me. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel some satisfaction. A small dark part of me that had waited 36 years to see karma arrive. But mostly I felt tired. And sad. These were still people I'd loved, still the family I'd tried so hard to belong to. Watching them suffer wasn't victory. It was just consequence. And consequences, even deserved ones, are heavy to witness. 3 weeks after the party, a letter arrived. My mother's stationery, her handwriting on the envelope. I didn't open it. Not yet. Some things need time before you're ready to face them. I put it in a drawer, beside the settlement documents and the screenshots and Howard's legal summaries. My family, reduced to a filing system. The legal aftermath unfolded with its own bureaucratic rhythm. The scholarship board launched a formal investigation. Madison, Emily's 17-year-old daughter, my niece, was notified that her first-generation scholarship was under review. I felt bad for her. She was old enough to understand what her parents had done, young enough for it to still shape her. She hadn't chosen this family any more than I had. The outcome came 3 weeks after the party. Scholarship revoked, full repayment demanded. $15,000 her parents would now need to find from somewhere. Madison's college admission remained valid, but the financial aid was gone. Emily and Derek would have to pay full tuition now. With their house already leveraged and Derek's income uncertain, I didn't know how they'd manage. The perfect family was learning what real financial struggle looked like. Derek's professional fallout was still developing. The state licensing board had been notified of the forgery through official channels. An investigation was pending. His financial advisor license, the foundation of his career, the credential he'd used to make his fraud look legitimate, was in jeopardy. The man who'd built my family's fraud had finally built something for himself. A case file. Rachel Chen called with updates on my situation. Your credit restoration is processing. Should see significant improvement within 60 days. The fraud alerts are in place. No one can open accounts in your name without direct verification. And Derek's first payment arrived yesterday. Right on schedule. He's actually paying? He's scared. Scared people pay their debts. For the first time in 6 years, my financial future was actually mine. I know some of you listening to this have been through something similar. Maybe not the exact same situation. But that feeling. Being the outsider in your own family. The one who gives but never receives. The one they talk about but never talk to. If you've ever wondered whether you were imagining things, you weren't. If you've ever felt crazy for sensing something was wrong, you're not crazy. If you've ever been told you're too sensitive for noticing how you're treated, sensitivity isn't the problem. Their behavior is. Sometimes the patterns are obvious. Sometimes they're subtle. Sometimes you spend years questioning your own perception because the people hurting you insist they're not. But you know. Deep down, you always know. Drop a comment if this story resonates. Share your experience if you feel comfortable. You're not alone. There are more of us than they want us to believe. And sometimes just knowing someone else understands is the first step towards seeing yourself clearly. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me finish telling you mine. Because the aftermath wasn't just about watching them fall, it was about figuring out how to stand on my own. The unexpected allies emerged slowly. Nathan became a regular presence. Coffee twice a week, sometimes dinner. We didn't talk about the family much. We talked about everything else. Movies we'd missed, books we were reading. The weird satisfaction of grocery shopping alone at 11 at night. It was the first family relationship I'd ever had that wasn't about obligation. Others reached out too. Cousin Amy, one of the quiet ones I'd barely spoken to over the years. I wasn't in the chat, she wrote, but I should have noticed something was wrong. I'm sorry. Great Aunt Martha called. Your grandmother told me everything. I'm proud of you, girl. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Even Mrs. Patterson from church, the one who'd hurried past me at the party without eye contact, sent a card. I judged too quickly. Please forgive me. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to remind me that family isn't always blood. The unexpected message came 4 weeks after the party. An email from Madison, my niece, the 17-year-old whose scholarship had been revoked because of her parents' fraud. Subject line: I'm sorry. Aunt Jessica, I know this is weird, but I wanted you to know. I didn't know what my parents were doing. I just found out why my scholarship was taken away. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. And I think what they did to you was wrong. You're the only one in this family who ever seemed real. I hope you're okay." She was 17, already seeing clearer than her parents ever had. I wrote back, just a few lines. "Madison, thank you. This wasn't your fault. You didn't choose your parents any more than I chose mine. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." No strings attached. I wasn't sure I could forgive Emily. But her daughter wasn't Emily. And someone needed to show that girl what family actually looked like. The Sundays with Grandma continued. Same as before, but different. I still drove to her house, still sat in her garden while she worked with her flowers, still watched her write in that leather notebook. But now we talked about what was in it. Any regrets? I asked her once, 3 weeks after the party, about exposing them. No. About doing it publicly? She thought for a moment, her hands still in the soil. The truth needed witnesses. Otherwise, they would have rewritten history. That's what people like that do. They reshape the story until they're the victims, until you're the crazy one, until everyone forgets what really happened. They still might try. Let them try. The people who matter know what happened. The rest is just noise. I watched her plant a new rose bush. Something about the routine of it, the patience, felt significant. "Do you think they'll ever change?" She set down her trowel. "Some people change because they want to, some because they have to, and some never do. Which kind is my mother? That's not for me to say, sweetheart. That's for her to show. And if she doesn't, then you'll have your answer, and you'll be free to stop waiting, free to stop waiting." Such simple words. Such a revolutionary idea. "There's something I want to tell you. About the estate." I tensed. "Grandma, you don't need to. Relax. It's good news. I've made some changes beyond what I announced at the party." "What kind of changes?" "The kind that make sure you're taken care of, no matter what happens to me." "Grandma." She held up a dirt-covered hand. "Shush. Let an old woman have her secrets. You'll find out eventually." She smiled. That smile that said, "Trust me." "I've been planning this longer than you know." We sat in the garden until the sun went down. Not talking, just being. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. 4 weeks had passed. The world hadn't ended. Mine was just beginning. Derek made his first payment. Emily stayed invisible. Mother kept her distance. And I went back to my life. The one they'd always mocked. Client calls in the morning, spreadsheets in the afternoon, coffee with Nathan on Tuesdays, Sundays with Grandma, dinner standing over the sink because some habits don't change. It was small, quiet, mine. And for the first time, I wasn't apologizing for any of it. The letter from my mother still sat in that drawer, unopened. I'd look at it sometimes, pull open the drawer, see the envelope with her handwriting, wonder what was inside. Apology? Excuse? Accusation? Some combination of all three? I wasn't ready to find out. But I would be, eventually. That was the thing about time. It didn't heal everything, but it gave you space to decide what was worth healing. 1 month down, a lifetime to go. They'd called me the failure for 6 years. Now I was the only one still standing. Funny how that worked out. 2 months after my grandmother's 75th birthday party, I woke up without dread for the first time in years. No anxiety about what the family group chat might say. No wondering if I'd missed some obligation I never agreed to. No mental calculations about how to make myself smaller to avoid notice. Just morning light through my apartment window, the smell of coffee brewing. Birds outside that I'd somehow never noticed before. Small things. But small things add up when you've been starving for them. My life had settled into something that felt genuinely mine. Work was steady. Clients who valued my expertise, who paid on time, who treated me like a professional rather than a backup plan. The freelance thing they'd mocked for years was actually thriving. Socially, I had rhythms now. Coffee with Nathan every Tuesday, Sunday dinners at Grandma's, occasional lunches with cousin Amy, who'd become an unexpected friend. I'd started therapy too, twice a month. Not because I was broken, because I wanted to understand how I'd let myself be invisible for so long, how the patterns had formed, how to recognize them if they ever tried to form again. I was learning that healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about remembering without the weight. The envelope from my mother still sat in my nightstand drawer, 2 months of wondering what was inside. Some mornings I'd open the drawer, look at it, close it again, not ready, not yet. Today felt different. Today, the curiosity was stronger than the fear. I made my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd documented 6 years of fraud in one sleepless night. I opened the drawer, pulled out the envelope, and finally, I opened the letter. 3 pages. Handwritten. My mother's familiar script, the one I'd seen on birthday cards and grocery lists my whole life. The paper smelled faintly of her perfume. Some things don't change, even when everything else does. Jessica, I've started this letter 14 times. Every version sounds like an excuse, because I don't have anything better to offer. I could tell you about the financial pressure, about how Derek convinced us it was harmless, about how easy it was to rationalize when we never saw your face. But those are reasons, not excuses. And you deserve more than reasons. The truth is I failed you long before the loans, long before the chat, long before any of it. When your father left, I blamed myself. And somehow, I let that blame spill onto you, the daughter who reminded me of the marriage I'd failed. You had his eyes, his quiet way of observing everything. Every time I looked at you, I saw what I'd lost. Emily was my fresh start. You were my reminder. That's not fair. It was never fair. But I didn't see it until you forced me to. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. I'm asking for a chance. Someday. When you're ready, if you're ever ready. I've started therapy. Real therapy. Not the kind where you tell the therapist what they want to hear. I'm learning why I did what I did. It's not comfortable. But it's necessary. You were right. Understanding is new for me. But I'm trying. I love you, Jessica. I know those words don't mean much right now. But they're true. They've always been true. I just forgot how to show it. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Your mother, Diane. I set the letter down, read it again. Then a third time. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough. But it was honest. And honest was something new from her. I sat with that letter for a long time. The coffee went cold. The morning passed. Part of me wanted to call her immediately. The little girl who still wanted her mother to love her. Who still hoped that if she just tried hard enough, the relationship could be what it was supposed to be. Another part, the part that had survived 36 years of being unseen, knew better. Love without action is just a word. Pretty but empty. I would respond. But not yet. She'd asked for time. I needed it too. 2 more months. The full 6 months I'd originally requested. If she was still in therapy by then, still trying, still showing instead of just telling, maybe we could try. Maybe. I wrote back. 1 page. Honest. Mom. I received your letter. I've read it several times. I appreciate the honesty. It's more than I expected. I'm not ready to talk yet. I need the full 6 months we agreed on. Keep going to therapy. Keep doing the work. When the 6 months are up, I'll reach out. We can have coffee, see where we are. I'm not promising forgiveness. But I'm not closing the door either. That's the best I can offer right now. Jessica, I mailed it that afternoon. The first step toward something. I didn't know what yet. 3 weeks later, my doorbell rang. Early evening. I was making dinner. Still standing over the sink because some habits are hard to break. Through the peephole, I saw Emily. No designer bag this time, no perfect makeup, just my sister looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I almost didn't open the door. But something told me this needed to happen. She stood just inside the doorway when I let her in. Didn't sit, didn't try to hug me. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. Then why are you here? Because I owe you something I've never given you. What's that? The truth. She took a breath. Her hands were shaking. I was jealous of you. My whole life. You were always so capable, so steady. Grandma loved you in a way she never loved me. I had the looks, the followers, the perfect life everyone could see, but you had something I couldn't buy or fake. You had substance, and I hated you for it. The words came out in a rush, like she'd been holding them for years. So I made you small, in the chat, in family conversations, in my own head. If I could convince everyone you were a failure, then my success meant something. But it didn't. It never did. She met my eyes for the first time. The fraud was Derek's idea, but I didn't stop him. I participated. I told myself you'd never know, that it didn't really hurt you. I was wrong about all of it. And I'm sorry, genuinely, truly sorry. Not because I got caught. Because I finally understand what I did. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. But it doesn't change anything between us. It changes how I remember you. That matters. But trust? A relationship? That's gone, Emily. You can't apologize your way back from 6 years. I know, her voice broke. I just needed you to hear it, from me. Not through lawyers or letters. I heard it. Is there any chance? I don't know. Maybe. Years from now. Maybe. But not now. Not for a long time. Emily nodded, tears falling. That's fair. That's more than fair. Goodbye, Emily. Goodbye, Jessica. She left. I closed the door. And somehow closing that door felt like opening something else. The following Sunday, Grandma's garden was in full autumn color, reds and golds against the old stone walls. Her notebook sat on the garden table, same as always. We'd fallen into a rhythm, her and I. Soup on the stove, tea in the garden, conversation without agenda. This Sunday, she had something specific to discuss. I've finalized my estate plans. Howard filed everything last week. Grandma, we don't need to talk about. Yes, we do, because I want you to understand something. She took my hands. Her grip was strong for 75. You're not just the executor of my will. You're the primary beneficiary. This house, my savings, everything I've built, it goes to you. I started to protest. Grandma, that's not. I never asked for. I know you didn't. That's exactly why you deserve it. The others will say I'm punishing them, taking sides. Let them say what they want. Her eyes held mine, steady and sure. I've watched this family for 75 years. You're the only one who showed up without expecting something in return. That's not nothing, sweetheart. That's everything. You know what I've learned being this old? What? That family isn't blood. It isn't obligation. It isn't even love. Then what is it? Choice. Family is who you choose. And who chooses you back? Your mother, your sister. They chose to take. For years. You chose to give. Every single time. That's who you are. Don't let anyone make you ashamed of it. Grandma? Yes, honey. Thank you. For seeing me. All those years when no one else did. She smiled. Squeezed my hand. Thank you for being worth seeing. We sat in the garden until the sun went down, not talking, just being. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. What family looked like now was different, smaller, realer. Nathan and I never ran out of things to talk about. Trauma bonding, we joked. But it was more than that. It was two people who'd survived the same storm finding shelter in each other. Madison and I texted sometimes. She was applying to colleges the honest way now. I offered to help with applications. She accepted. Grandma's Sundays were sacred, non-negotiable. Cousin Amy came around once a month for dinner. Great Aunt Martha called every other week. Even Mrs. Patterson from church had become something like a friend. Her guilt transformed into genuine kindness. Not a big family, but a real one. I used to think family meant everyone who shared your blood. Now I knew better. Family was Grandma in her garden, writing down who showed up. Family was Nathan texting you okay at exactly the right moment. Family was Madison, brave enough to reach across the wreckage. Family was choosing each other every single day. I'm writing this from Grandma's living room. My living room, she insists, since I've started staying over most weekends. The notebook is on the table. She let me read it yesterday. My name appears more than anyone else's. 10 years of entries, 10 years of Jessica visited, Jessica helped, Jessica showed up, she'd been keeping track, all along. I still work 60 hours some weeks, still eat dinner standing over the sink sometimes, still live in that small apartment they mocked for years, though Grandma keeps hinting it might be time to move somewhere bigger. But something's different. I don't feel like I'm waiting anymore, waiting for permission, waiting for acknowledgement, waiting to matter. I matter. To myself, to the people who chose me. That's enough. It's more than enough. I didn't lose my family. I lost the illusion of one. The real family was always there. I just couldn't see it through all the noise. Now the noise is gone. And in the silence, I found something I'd been looking for my whole life. Freedom. Not freedom from them. Freedom to be myself. That's the difference. And it changes everything. That's my story. 1,247 messages, 6 years of secrets, $66,000 of fraud, and one grandmother who changed everything. They called me the failure, the invisible one, the quiet one. Turns out, quiet people hear everything. Invisible people see everything. And the failure, she was the one holding it all together. If you're watching this and you're still in the middle of your own story, still invisible, still underestimated, still waiting for someone to see you, I want you to know something. It gets better. Not because they change, but because you stop waiting for them to. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And you're the only one who gets to decide who walks through. Grandma said something to me once that I'll never forget. The best part of getting old is you stop caring what people think. You just live. I'm trying to do that now. Not wait until I'm 75. Live. Not perform, not prove, not beg for permission, just exist. Exactly as I am. And finally, that's enough. If this story meant something to you, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Or just tell me you were here. Sometimes knowing someone else understands is the first step toward freedom. And if you want more stories like this, stories about truth and karma and the power of finally standing up, hit that subscribe button. We're building something here. A community of people who've been underestimated their whole lives. You're not alone. Not anymore. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for seeing me. Until next time. This story is fictionalized for dramatic effect.